I hope you can hear the carrot that I'm eating. Though I'm not sure I can chew and talk. Yeah. Wow, of course. We're back to Thief Simulator, chat. We made it out of prison. We made it out of the fucking prison level.
The dragon has 3 heads. One to be a monarch whose crown will weigh heavy.
Oh yeah. Let's ease into it. Let's ease into it slowly. It's not catching it. There we go. There we go. Yeah. Yeah. And then, what if we bring in... Yo. It's loading. No, it's not sad. It's not sad. Life, death, it's all joy. It's all beauty. Damn, the eigenvector is broken.
Even though
there we
I
go.
predictably reached the conclusion that the postmodern and other of the modern cannot be identified in terms of our modern discourse, it should not be utterly pointless to put into question what constitutes the separation of the modern and the postmodern. That is, what underlies the possibility of our talking about the modern at all. Similarly, it is essential...
Bro, we're in the modern right now. Oh, it loads so much. Bro, I feel like I can't be pausing this. Unless I download it. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to have to do. Oh, shit. What are we doing? Yeah. Damn, it's not letting me export it. Alright, the essay is exporting right now. I'm not sure how long this is going to take. Because I really wanted to, like, pause it and give my thoughts occasionally. Alright. This is like 0% though. Oh, 7% completed? Oh my, this might be taking a while. Alright, we got quests. What are the quests we gotta do? Where's our damn quests? Complete 7 missions from Hell Neighbor. I don't remember what my Hell Neighbor missions are. Damn it, I gotta go back to the hideout. Chat, I've never watched Swan Lake. I don't remember anything about this. I'm full grifting right now. Alright. Hell Neighbor. It's Los Federales. Los Federales. No, nobody dies in, it's fake. Nobody dies in Swan Lake. Bro. Destroy the garden gnome. Huh, I'm taking a screenshot of this, because I can't right now. I actually can't. I'm taking notes, chat. 50% done with the essay. Alright. Destroy a garden gnome, smash a few things, destroy the AC unit. Yeah, I can do that. I'm like the local pest. I'm actually the local fixer. Hell yeah. This isn't even Thief Simulator. (103), 108, and 101. To the right. Destroy the garden gnomes. What are my hotkeys? There we go. Is he home? Yo, are they home? They did hear me. Yo. Run. Oh, I can't be doing this right now. Yo, wait, I might make it. Get me out. Get me out. Oh! Bro, how was I caught? I feel like I was fine. I feel like I was fine. Alright, 93% complete with the essay. Alright. We're gonna be learning what postmodernism, chat. We're gonna be figuring it out. Ready? Download. Give me that shit. Oh yeah, here we go.
I will predictably reach the conclusion that the postmodern and other of the modern cannot be identified in terms of our modern discourse. It should not be utterly pointless to put into question what constitutes the separation of the modern and the postmodern. That is, what underlies the possibility of our talking about the modern at all. Similarly, it is essential.
I love talking about the modern. I'm a modern.
The pre-modern, with reference to which modernity has also been defined in a great many instances. This series, pre-modern, modern, postmodern, may suggest an order of chronology. However, it must be remembered that this order has never been dissociated from the geopolitical configuration of the world. As is known very well by now, this basically 19th century historical scheme provides a perspective through which to comprehend the location of nations, cultures, traditions, and races in a systematic manner. Although the last term has not emerged until fairly recently, the historico-geopolitical pairing of the pre-modern and the modern has been one of the major organizing apparatuses of academic discourse. The emergence of the third and enigmatic term, the postmodern, possibly testifies not so much to a transition from one period to another as to the shift or transformation of our discourse, as a result of which the supposed indisputability of the historico-geopolitical pairing, pre-modern and modern, has become increasingly problematic. Of course, it is not the first time the validity of this pairing has been challenged. Yet surprisingly enough, it has managed to survive many challenges, and it would be extremely optimistic to believe it has finally been proven to be ineffectual. Either as a set of socio-economic
5 ads later? Alright, this is
an
perfect.
adherence of a
This is turning out
society to selected
perfectly.
values, the term modernity can never be understood without reference to this pairing of the pre-modern and the modern. Historically, modernity has primarily been opposed to its historical precedent. Geopolitically, it has been contrasted to the non-modern, or more specifically, to the non-West. Thus, the pairing has served as a discursive scheme according to which the historical predicate is translated into a geopolitical one.
What the fuck? Why did they call the police on me?
A subject is posited through the attribution of these predicates. And thanks to the function of this discursive apparatus, two kinds of areas are diacritically discerned: the modern West and the pre-modern non-West. As a matter of course, this does not mean either that
That's modernity. That's modernity. There's pre-modern non-West.
Modernized. It simply excludes the possibility of a simultaneous coexistence of the pre-modern West and the modern non-West. Already a cursory examination of this sort about modernity amply suggests a certain polarity or warp among the possible ways to conceive of the world historically and geopolitically. As many have pointed out, there is no inherent reason why the West-non-West opposition should determine the geographic perspective of modernity, except for the fact that it definitely serves to establish the putative unity of the West, a nebulous but commanding positivity whose existence we have tended to take for granted for such a long time. It goes without saying that the West is not simply and straightforwardly a geographic category. One need not refer to historical detail.
Chat, to be clear, this stream is everything President Sunday could ever wish he was. Actually, chat, you guys need to tell me if you have, if you're earning channel points. Chat, are you guys getting channel points? Tell me. We can start gambling. That's so awesome. Aren't you guys excited? No gambling addicts? No gamba addicts? Alright, well, back to the essay then.
To discover that the West has expanded
Oh,
and shifted
Spot, you're getting them?
arbitrarily for the last 2 centuries. It is a name for a subject which gathers itself in discourse, but is also an object constituted discursively. It is
Constituted
evidently
discursively, yes,
a
yes,
name
yes, yes.
always associating itself with those regions.
No, this
communities,
is safe
and
gambling though.
peoples that appear politically or economically superior to other regions, communities, and peoples. Basically, it is just like the name Japan, which reputedly designates a geographic area, a tradition, a national identity, a culture, an ethnos, a market, and so on. Yet, unlike all the other names
That's so
associated
badass,
with
Salty.
geographic particularities, it also implies the refusal of its self-delimitation. It claims that it is capable of sustaining, if not actually transcending, an impulse to transcend all the particularizations, which is to say that the West is never content with what it is recognized as by its others. It is always urged to approach others in order to ceaselessly transform its self-image. It continually seeks itself in the midst of interaction with the other. It would never be satisfied with being recognized,
Chat, that's
but would
you!
wish to recognize others. It would rather be a supplier of recognition than a receiver thereof. In short, the West must represent the moment of the universal under which particulars are subsumed. Indeed, the West is
Yo, I hate essentialism! I hate essentialism, I hate essentialism, I hate essentialism!
to which others recognize themselves as particularities. And in this regard, the West thinks itself to be ubiquitous. This
Oh,
account
totally
of
ubiquitous.
unity
Totally ubiquitous. Chat, it was totally ubiquitous. That was a mistake on my part. I entered in the wrong words. This is Thief Simulator, Salty. We're playing Thief Simulator. I escaped out of prison. Isn't it awesome? Alright, we're going back. Okay, so I felt like the last paragraph was actually pretty important, right? Alright, we're waiting for this guy to exit his house so we can rob him blind. Right? He's got a little green area on the top right. We're gonna enter into his home. Yo, he can see me! Ha ha! Hey bro, I'm just looking into your window. Anyways, okay. I thought last paragraph was actually very good. I thought it hit me like very hard. Yeah! Hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah. Hold on, chat. Hold on. That was an epic ending. But this paragraph I thought went really, really hard. Can I like generate it like right now? Just this paragraph? Yeah, come on. If it's gonna load. What about essentialism? Okay. No. My actual perspective is that essentialism has to be used responsibly. What does responsibly mean? Fuck you. I don't care. Oh, yo, is he leaving? No. Marking? Hold on. It's running. Like, I'm literally just trying to get it to run a single paragraph, because I thought that paragraph was, like, I would just just run the paragraph, hello. I don't care if the export status is ready. Yo, what the, how is this, why am I being arrested for this? What is going on? I'm not in the, you get pulled over? I cannot with this game sometimes. I cannot. Which one is the most recent save? This one? Yes, fine. I got Los Federales, because, okay, fine. What this means is I need to park on the grass more. That's all I need to fucking do. I just need to park on the grass harder. Alright, anyways, this fucking bot is not working right now. I think I need to load the entire page. I literally did nothing. All I did was park my fucking car on the street. My massive Ford F-150. Yeah, I'm a guilty bird. I'm a guilty bird. But what if, chat? Do I look so guilty now? There's no way. Let's rob this guy blind. And put our car somewhere convenient where it will not inconvenience somebody, right? Here we go. This will do it, I think. Alright, is the website back? Hello? Alright, which paragraph was it? It was... from this object... Universalism, pseudo problem. Yo, I don't want to. Damn, we got actually really far into it. More than I thought. Maybe I need to slow it down. Yes, literally. Was even more closely interwoven. Alright, whatever. We're just gonna go back. We're vibing out the essay. I mean, basically, the idea is that modernism was attached to the idea of pre-modernism, and it was subsumed into the capital nationalist project of America. And America sort of sits on the farthest periphery of a scale of universality and power and like economic power, and we'll see what they have to say about what happens if that changes.
Called the West is nothing new. Yet this is exactly the way in which Jürgen Habermas, for instance, still argues about Occidental rationalism. He implicitly
Wait, I can just listen to this. Habermas. If I want to read the essay out. Okay, so this paragraph I thought was really good. A cursory examination of this sort about modernity amply suggests a certain polarity or warp among the possible ways to conceive of the world historically and geopolitically. As many have pointed out, there is no inherent reason why the West, non-West oppositions should determine the geographic perspective of modernity, except for the fact that it definitely serves to establish the punitive unity of the West. A nebulous but commanding positivity whose existence we have tended to take for granted for such a long time. It goes without saying that the West is not simply and straightforwardly a geographic category. One needs not refer to historical details to discover that the West has expanded and shifted arbitrarily for the last 2 centuries. It is a name for a subject that gathers itself in discourse, but it is also an object constituted discursively. It is evidently a name always associated with those regions, communities, and peoples that appear politically or economically superior to other regions, communities, and peoples. Basically, it is just like the name Japan, which reputedly designates a geographic area, a tradition, a national identity, a culture, and an ethos, and so on. Yet, unlike all the other names associated with geographic particularities, it also implies that the refusal of its self-delimitation, it claims that it's capable of sustaining, if not actually transcending, an impulse to transcend all particularizations, right? A lot of European philosophy, American philosophy, is about finding like the absolute best, right? The most true thing there could be, right? The most pure true, and completely ignore like and transcend above particularization. The West is never. He says that the West is never content with what is recognized as by its others. It is always urged to approach others in order to ceaselessly transform its self-image. Right? Like, you know, the West is sort of insecure by constantly putting itself into the face of other things. It learns about its own self-identity. Holy time! Is it time to rob him? No, not yet. Not yet. Not yet. It would not be. It would never be satisfied with being recognized, but would wish to recognize others. It would rather be a supplier of recognition than a receiver thereof. In short, the West must represent the moment of the universal under which particularities are subsumed. Key: particularities subsumed. Indeed, the West is particular in and of itself, but it also constitutes the universal point of reference in relation to which others recognize themselves as particularities. And in this regard, the West thinks itself to be ubiquitous. Banger. Absolute banger. Absolutely banging. We're going back to Swan Lake. We're going back to the hard gameplay. We're robbing this guy blind. That's right. Boot up.
Must represent the moment of the universal under which particulars are subsumed. Indeed, the West is particular in itself, but it also constitutes the universal point of reference in relation
I don't care. Let her run again.
Themselves as particularities. And in this regard, the West thinks
let the words wave over you.
This account of the putative unity called the West is nothing new. Yet this is exactly the way in which Jürgen Habermas, for instance, still argues about Occidental rationalism. He implicitly connects a claim to universality with our Occidental understanding of the world. In order
He's
to
Japanese, by the
specify
way.
the significance of this claim, he relies upon the historico-geopolitical pairing of the pre-modern and the modern, thereby highlighting a comparison with the mythical understanding of the world. Within the cultural traditions accessible to us, that is, within the cultural traditions anthropologists have reconstructed for us, myths of archaic societies present the sharpest contrast to the understanding of the world dominant
No
in modern
rocks.
societies.
No
Mythical
rocks, no
worldviews are
seeds.
far from making possible rational orientations of action in our sense. With respect to the conditions for a rational conduct of life in this sense, they present an antithesis to the modern understanding of the world. Thus, the heretofore unthematized presuppositions of modern thought should become visible in the mirror of mythical thinking. He takes for granted a parallel correspondence among the binary oppositions: pre-modern, modern, non-West-West, mythical, rational. Moreover, for him, the very unity of the West is a given. It is an almost tactile reality. What is most surprising is that while
Yeah, swans
admitting the
eat like
non-West
children.
as a
They're like
mirror by
incredibly
which the West
aggressive.
becomes visible, Habermas obviously does not ask if the mirror may be extremely obscure. Whether or not the image facilitated
Bro,
by
leave your
ethnographers
house.
and anthropologists is the
All I
true
wanna do is break your
representation of
gnome.
what is actually there is not at issue. What is worthwhile noting is that he deals with the non-Western cultures and traditions as though they were clearly shaped and as though they could be treated exhaustively as objects. Even when he tackles the problem concerning the incommensurability of other cultures, the whole issue of unintelligibility is reduced to the intelligibility of the problem of incommensurability. For Habermas, it signifies
That was incommensurability mean? I don't know. Let's see. A lack of a common standard or measurement for comparison of two things. Wow, there's no metric for cultures? Incredible. Ethnology is a joke, I know. Alright, it's time. See you later, bud. Oh, whoa, I clicked the wrong thing. There we
no
go.
more than that of cultural relativism, a pseudo-problem in itself. Habermas argues with epistemological confidence in order to reinstall epistemological confidence in us and make us trust in universalism again. That is, given the most persuasive and possibly most rigorous determination available today of the term egocentricity, one might say it is simply ethnocentric. But if the intrusion of the term postmodern bears witness to the inquietude surrounding our identity, if this putative unity of the West, the U.S., from which and with whom Habermas wishes to speak, is being dissolved, what does the fact that his epistemological confidence is not shaken imply? If the possibility of a certain enunciative position, the U.S., the Occidental U.S., with which his theory of communicative action is so closely interwoven, is in fact threatened, would one be justified to say his epistemological confidence indicates something else? Are we then allowed to say it points to an inquietude about us that has been repressed?
He's talking about Japan now. Holy shit.
From this
Okay, so I installed like 3-second breaks here and there to like reflect on passages. I don't know. Do I have any substantial or deep thoughts about this? Yeah, I don't know. I guess modernity is a former perspective, you know, around the 1900s. I feel like modernity probably ended at the First World War. After the end of this First World War? Maybe? I don't know. But, you know, all these modernists, they were like, you know, we're so cool, we're so enlightened. And we're gonna, you know, explore the world, see what's up, document them. And, Japan was kind of like, an outlier in a lot of ways. And, I guess he's gonna try and figure out why. Why is Japan an outlier? What about it? What can we learn about by contrasting Japan against its neighbors? Let's review a couple,
about us
30
has been
seconds. Let's see.
From this perspective, it is understandable that the discursive object called Japan has presented a heterogeneous instance that could not be easily integrated into the global configuration, organized according to the pairing of the modern and the pre-modern. It has been repeatedly deplored or extolled that Japan alone of the non-Western cultures was able to adopt rapidly what it needed of Western nations in order to transform itself into a modern industrial society. Hence, a sizable amount of intellectual labor has been invested in order to render this peculiar object innocuous in the discursive formation. In the United States, the consequences of this labor have usually been collected under the name of the modernization theory. In addition to overtly strategic requirements of the state, there was a certain implicit but no less urgent demand to which the production of social, scientific, and humanistic argument was submitted. Following Max Weber, who also saw clearly the mission of discursively ascertaining the putative unity of the West, and who executed that mission most skillfully, some modernization theorists pursued the mission of ascertaining the unity of America.
I'm actually getting triggered from the fucking jail.
Commanding part of the West. What modernization theory has accomplished by introducing the opposition of universalism and particularism into the study of other cultures is, first, to reproduce the same kind of discursive formation within which the unity of the West is constituted, but this time with the center explicitly in the United States. Second, it has generated a new kind of historical narrative which preserves the dictates of 19th century historicism, but rejects its overt reliance upon the notion of national history. Here I must hasten to add, this does not mean that the new historical narrative was less nationalistic or in an antagonistic relation with nationalism. This version of universalism is, like some other universalisms, decidedly nationalistic. Yet in this new narrative, nationalism had to be articulated differently. On the one hand, modernization theorists certainly inherited the European legacy of a historical time that coincides with the transition, gradual or rapid, from particularity to universality, from abstract universality to concrete universality, and ultimately coincides with the process of increasing rationalization, of reason realizing itself.
Chat, we love reason realizing itself. We love being the center of the universe. We love being the titans of knowing it all. And unfortunately, we're all human, and that's not capable. Not possible. Right, so he's saying that the United States put itself in relationship to Japan and Europe upon different gradients of universalism, which became, sort of nationalistic. Is there like a particularism of nationalism? I don't fucking know. I don't care. Actually, it's just the people, right? Fuck, I hate phenomenology. These people suck ass. In one hand, modernization theorists claim that the coincides with historical, On the other hand, being dispersed. Where's all the oh, here we go. On the one hand, modernization theorists clearly inherited from the European legacy of a historical time that coincides with the transition from particularity to universality. Capitalism. That's all he's saying. It's just capitalism, right? Abstract universality to concrete universalism coincides with the process of increasing rationalization, right? But I would say to him, it's at least at this time, it was, I guess, sort of rationalization, but the idea of efficiency, about improving human efficiency, I think, and... I don't know. I mean, okay, at the time, gradual, rapid, doesn't matter. I hate that word. Gradual is a trigger word for me, in all honesty. I'm so sorry. But during the transition from, part of industrialization and the conquest, and I guess he's equating modernism with, the age of reason, right? The Enlightenment. No, there's not my Discord. I don't know how I'm getting Discord notifications. I shouldn't be. Let's see. Oh.
On the other hand, they saw universalistic elements as being dispersed. Instead of stressing the dynamics of conflict between the self and the other, the attempt was made to show that any society is potentially capable of rationalizing itself. But it is also explicit that, in rationalizing itself, that society becomes similar to America. Or, to put it slightly differently, progress always means Americanization. In this respect, modernization theorists express the vision, most successfully implanted in the mass consciousness of post-war Japan, that modernization was implicitly equated to Americanization. While prior to this, Modernization had been more or less equated to Europeanization. Modernization theory at large worked in the service of shifting the center from Western Europe to America. Obviously, it is utterly beside the point to ask which vision of modernization is more authentic. What this reading hints at is that while the modernization process may be envisioned as a move toward the concretization of values at some abstract level, it is always imagined as a concrete transfer from one point to another on a world map. Thus, universalism and the concept of modernity were even more closely interwoven with American nationalism than before. But it is important to note that, because of this double structure, universalism often appears free of the well-recognized defects of nationalism. Of course, the claim to universality frequently serves to promote the demands of nationalism. Because of the double structure, an incessant oscillation is generated between universalism and particularism. Possibly a certain provincialism and the aspiration toward universalism are two sides of the same coin. Particularism and universalism do not form an antinomy, but mutually reinforce each other. As a matter of fact, particularism has never been a truly disturbing enemy of universalism or vice versa.
True!
Precisely because both are closed off to the individual, who can never be transformed into the subject or what infinitely transcends the universal. Neither universalism nor particularism is able to come across the other. Otherness is always reduced to the other, and thus repressed, excluded, and eliminated in them both. And after all, what we normally call universalism is a particularism thinking itself as universalism, and it is worthwhile doubting whether universalism could ever exist otherwise. However, there are certain conditions that have to be met in order for this universalism to be possible.
Wow.
The center of the West
honestly,
assumed to represent
that was another banger paragraph. I'm gonna be honest, another banger paragraph. Yeah, the idea of universalism, at least when was this essay published? Actually, that's a very good question. That's what we're gonna figure out right now. 2020, this was published. Actually, very recently.
Universalistic social formation, it ought to be ahead of less universalistic and more particularistic societies in the historical time of rationalization. It must be the most advanced particularity, since universality is equated to the ability to change and rationalize its social institutions. Embedded in this format is an equation according to which one can infer, from the relative degree of economic rationality, the society's investment in universalism. In other words, unless a society performs well in such a sphere as economy, it would not be able to claim it adheres to universalism. Hence, when the society is perceived to be ahead of other societies, this universalism effectively and powerfully legitimates that society's dominion over others.
Oh, there's already a cop. Oh, I'm so screwed. This is what I get for being a monster. This is what I get for being a monster. I deserve what's coming to me.
Its effectuality and persuasiveness. By the weight of its commitment to universalism, the society's self-esteem would eventually be put in jeopardy. Universalism would then appear to be the burden under which pressure the image of the society as a totality would be crushed. The term postmodern obliquely attests
that was another one. That was another one. That was another pause. Holy shit. Chat, we gotta commentate now. I keep distracted by how good the song is. Yeah, the song is good. The song is so good. Honestly, banger. Bring bangers back. I love it when like modern like pop musicians use like string instruments and stuff like that. I love it so much. It's so nice. I don't know. It feels good, feels cozy. You can still make, you know, phenomenal music with like electric materials. But I don't know, it just feels so good, it feels so cozy. Alright, anyways. This was another banger, I feel like. Rationalization, political superiority, all of that was sort of accumulated under the branding of the United States, when in reality the laws of nature demands that universalism always contain a part of particularism with it. And so the facade of hyper-rationalism, the facade of effectuality and persuasiveness runs away and dissolves like a rain. Let's see. Back 30 seconds? Yeah, let's do 25.
It rapidly loses its effectuality and persuasiveness.
Yup.
By the weight of its commitment to universalism, the society's self-esteem would eventually be put in jeopardy.
Yup.
Universalism,
The fantasy of
then appeared to be the
universalism.
under which pressure the image of the society as a totality would be crushed.
Now, I don't know if he's shilling that the image of society would be crushed as a totality, and we're gonna move to like a post-society like world as we see it now, like post-state. Not fucking way. Not gonna happen. Sorry, bud.
The term postmodern obliquely attests to this sort of internal contradiction which modern universalism has come to realize. A recent publication, The Fracture of Meaning by David Pollock, is one of the best instances in which to observe what would happen when a naive universalism is confronted with such recognition. It reacts to the perceived change of environment by reinforcing the already existing rules of discourse according to which universalism has been naturalized. What is significant here, however, is that whereas those rules were previously
How do I get rid of Zendaya?
assumed and accepted silently,
I need something
they
for
have now
Zendaya.
to be stated and loudly announced. It is in this point that the importance of Pollock's work lies, and furthermore, his investigation of the Japanese aesthetic constitutes a deliberate attempt to conserve the kind of framework embedded in the accumulated knowledge on the non-West, particularly the Far East. What makes his work even more interesting is his gesture of respecting and taking seriously the kind of theoretical critique, sometimes called Oststructuralism in academic journalism, that has been most effective
Post-structuralism.
in a specific
Post-structuralism.
Eurocentric and humanistic power relation in the production of knowledge.
Disclosing.
Pollock's dauntless determination to eliminate and neutralize the critical impulse of post-structuralism is betrayed at almost every point where the authority
I can't
of
get a
such
trank
names
gun.
as Jacques Derrida
I need
and
to be
Roland
level
Barthes
3 for a
is
trank gun?
appealed to. Yet one must be sensitive
Why are
to the
ski
ways
masks
in
so
which his
expensive?
argument
What is going on?
collapses, since these reveal much more about the persistence of that obsolete but arrogant discursive formation called modernity than about mere technical mistakes. In demonstrating a uniquely Japanese dialectic called Wakan, Japanese Chinese, by means of which the subjective identity of Japan has been installed, Pollock manipulates the master metaphor, an old trope repeatedly used in Western studies of the Far East for nearly a century, of a frog from the bottom of its well who would define its world almost exclusively in terms of its walls. Up until the mid-19th century, China
love this
was
metaphor.
Japan's walls in opposition to which
Chat, the frog in the well metaphor has absolutely no relation to any cave metaphors. Absolutely none. It's silly of you.
Japan's existence was defined. And he adds, the United States has recently taken over that role. Just as Japan previously defined itself as China's other, so today it defines itself as America's other. In both cases, Japan's self is parasitic in one sense and relational in another. Putting aside the problem of whether or not every possible form of subjective identity is parasitic and relational, he proceeds to display many scientific facts which, without exception, testify to a distinctive gap between Japanese and Chinese languages. And he begins more detailed descriptions of a
Spore, this is what linguistics does to your fucking brain. It makes you compare two cultures against each other when you can also compare them against themselves within their own heterogeneous definitions.
uniquely Japanese culture with the simple and very modern-sounding premise that
Fucking
culture and
linguistic
language
bitches.
reflect and are informed by the same structure.
Assholes, literally.
Yet based upon this premise, or upon one of the implications
Actually,
of this premise,
chat, we're stopping linguistics. We're taking a linguistics break. We're listening to music. We're listening to music. I wish I could sleep. I can't. Alright, we're going back to universalism.
that both culture and language must be able to be isolated as unitary systems in order for these unities to reflect and to be informed by the same structures. The gap between China and Japan at the level of representation is inscribed upon and merged with the difference between the two at the level of the real. In linguistics, some systematic unity of regularities has to be posited as a necessary presupposition in order to analyze and organize so-called empirical information. What constitutes the possibility of linguistics as a systematic and formal corpus
Bro,
of
he just
knowledge
missed out on the
is this
steak.
positing
Oh, he
of
got it?
language unity, which should never be confused with the actual substance of a language. But the systematic unity of a language does not exist in various linguistic activities as the spine
Hey,
exists in the
bro,
body.
you gonna
of
walk
an
out of your
animal.
house? I'm just holding a
Hence, it
steak
is
in front of your
misleading
house.
to say that linguistics discovers and identifies the unity of a particular local or national language after the examination of data. On the contrary,
I love examining
positing
data.
of such a particular language unity is the necessary condition for the possibility of linguistic research. The nature of language unities such as Japanese or Chinese is basically discursive. This is to say that a language unity cannot be represented as a circumscribed space or closure. The metaphor of a frog in the well is not necessarily irrelevant. It is rather accurate and extremely persuasive in the context of contemporary Japan, where the outside world seems to be a mere image projected on the walls.
Stop using the fucking Q word in my chat. No more using the Q word. I cannot be using the Q word. None of that. I won't have it.
By national mass media. However, if this metaphor is linked to a typical epistemological cliche
Chat, look
of
at the
cultural solipsism, all these unities.
the gaze, not the quants.
Happens with Pollock.
It's not the quants, it's
In
the
part,
gaze,
this
chat.
results from his inability to maintain the difference
Bro,
between
excuse me,
a
bro.
category of analysis
Hold
and
up.
an object
Yeah,
of
go ahead.
analysis. But more importantly, this seems to be a consequence of the general lack of theoretical critique about modern discourse. For instance, the three unities of Japanese language, Japanese culture, and the Japanese nation are repeatedly used almost interchangeably, as if obediently following the models of Japanese imperial historiography, Kokoku Shikan, or more recent discourse on Japanese uniqueness, Nihonjinran. Pollock projects the stereotypical image of contemporary Japan into its Middle Ages and antiquity. In order to stress how different the Japanese are from the Chinese, and to demonstrate the dialectic interaction of the two nations, he frequently resorts to the kind of circular argument in which Japanese culture is identified by referring to the identity of Japanese language. Japanese language is then identified by referring to the national identity of the people. And finally, the Japanese people are identified by their cultural and linguistic heritage. He is not aware that this series of tautologies is a feature of a historically specific discursive formation. What Pollock does not see is that there is no logical ground on which the three categories correspond to each other.
I threw dog meat at her.
As I argued elsewhere, it is only in recent history that the putative
Oh,
unity
he
of
left.
Japanese culture was established. An object of discourse called culture belongs to recent times. For Pollock, these three unities are trans-historical universals. The fracture of meaning most explicitly endorses cultural essentialism. His argument amounts to the task of determining Japan as a particularity. The sense of identity is always dependent upon the other.
Birds can
Needless to
sneeze.
say,
Birds
this other
can
is a
sneeze.
universal one. In contrast,
And it's
to which
adorable.
Japanese particularism is rendered even more conspicuous. By extension, this determination of Japan implies that Japan
How did you hear
has been
me?
from the outset a
How is that
natural
possible?
community, has never constituted itself as a modern nation. Pollock argues that, despite the evident linguistic heterogeneity between China and Japan, the Japanese adapted Chinese writing,
Ay,
which
ay, ay.
generated an endless anxiety over their own identity.
How is this possible?
It would no more have occurred to the Chinese, for example, than it would to us to find a problem in the adequacy of their own script to represent their thoughts. And yet our investigation begins precisely with the problem of the adoption of Chinese script in Japan's first text, a problem that will become paradigmatic for all that follows. Japanese uniqueness, he asserts, is best manifested in the fact that Japan had to borrow a foreign script. Plainly, the title of the book, The Fracture of Meaning, comes from this understanding, but the reader will be caught by surprise when he reads the following. Clearly, the notion of a fracture of the semiotic field of culture is not unique to Japan, nor is modern semiotics, after all, a subject particularly associated with Japan. Evidently, David Pollock did not mean to say it would no more have occurred to the Chinese, for example, than it would to us to find a problem in the adequacy of their own script to represent their thoughts. Of course,
Wow, chat.
he did
If
not
you aren't a native speaker, it's kind of different to speak the language. That's crazy.
for us all. But does not the pretense of not admitting that the script is never adequate to thought lead to the formation of an ethnocentric closure? Does not
What the
the
fuck?
recognition of the meaning's fracture purport that because not only writing but also speech is exterior and inadequate to thought, the script is always foreign, and that it, therefore, pierces the imagined closure of ethnic, cultural, and language unity? Does not Derrida say that when one speaks
Who the
or
fuck is
writes,
Derrida?
one is always external to one's putative identities?
Bro, this is where we got the fuckers talking about their this is identity politics. This is, but like you can, oh, I got, okay, this is identity politics. I guess the entire fucking thing is identity politics. This is talking about fucking Japan. All right, got it, okay. Let's see, what is going on here? He's saying the fracture, so he's trying to compare, this author was trying to compare Japan to China to understand the nature of its uniqueness, and then the notion of a fracture of semiotic fields is not unique to Japan at all, is actually what he was saying. That's crazy. Anyways, sucks to suck. He would have learned that we actually are all identifying ourselves in contrast to everyone else. Yep, I'm sorry, sucks to suck. By the way, chat, we are halfway through this essay. Pretty much halfway through. Let's keep trucking on. No. Like this is, you know, this isn't parasocial at all. We are completely universalized under this name. It's awesome, isn't it? Yeah, let's go back to the, yeah, thanks, Spot. Got it, understand, stop yapping, Bird. Yeah, let's go back to the essay. Got it, Bird. Thank you, Spot. You drink your coffee, huh? Are you always this much of a bitch when you haven't had your coffee? I'm sorry, Spot, I didn't mean that. The music was getting to me. I think you're right, though. Let's continue.
In order to criticize Japanese particularism, and possibly what Pollock thought of as Japanese cultural essentialism, he had to construct an image of Japan which would never adopt and include others. This is to say, he first had to create an object which he could later bash. But
chat, let's be honest. Few cultures, at least in the modern day, are as racist as Japan. Right?
Process, he mistakenly defined this peculiar object in terms of his own cultural essentialism. As a result, cultural essentialism has been accepted as the basic vocabulary belonging to the subject who studies, rather than as an attribute to the object studied. This kind of inversion repeatedly takes place in Pollock's book. When the overall methodological construction of this work is examined, one cannot help noticing another inversion. In the introduction, Pollock states, "I am concerned with the Japanese interpretations of what they saw as essentially Chinese, rather than our own interpretations or those of the Chinese themselves."
Hi Mokuba, welcome. This is Swan Lake we're listening to.
These three fields, three wells, Japanese, Chinese, and ours, are juxtaposed. Each field seems to form a hermeneutic horizon, as Pollock asserts the hermeneutic nature of his study. However, he says in the conclusion, "I am concerned here with a dialectical process, so that this study becomes more than anything else a hermeneutics of Japanese culture, a study of the ways in which the Japanese interpretation of themselves
We're robbing this person
and their
blind.
culture evolved over time. Here the Japanese
We're just waiting for them
field
to
is
leave.
chosen, and he says he is concerned only with the dialectic of Chinese and Japanese seen from the viewpoint of the Japanese. So, neither China nor even the idea of China was necessarily involved in its operation. He deals with China only insofar as it is represented by the Japanese. What he is unable to comprehend is the fact, without reference to which the metaphor of a frog in a well would not work, that the frog can never see his own well on its walls. For the frog, the totality of his well can never be visible. Therefore,
Bro, he just took my steak.
Know that it is confined in a tiny space.
Okay,
It
so
is
this
not
guy's
aware
here.
that what it believes to be the entire universe is merely a small well. In order to know that
I
its
just run
universe
around
is
the
merely a
back.
well, the image of the well must be projected on the walls. Thus, for the frog, Japanese, the totality of the well, Japan, is basically invisible and has to be recognized only as a representation projected on the walls. If China is dealt with only as a representation, Japan should be dealt with in exactly the same fashion. Furthermore, if the Japanese
Yo, he's
do
leaving.
not have some representation
There's
of
one other
Japan
person.
in their
See you
confinement
later, bud.
or subjection to it, they could not even recognize that they are Japanese. They would not be able to identify themselves with Japan. As China is simply imaginary for the Japanese, so Japan is also imaginary for them. If Pollock wishes to talk about the synthesis of China in the Japanese culture, he must first talk about the synthesis of Japan in the Japanese culture. There should be as much dialectic between the Japanese
Yo, how was I
and Japan
detected?
as
Give me that
between
shit
the
back.
Japanese and China.
Give me that shit back.
Of course, his cultural essentialism is totally blind.
I'll be
to
back.
the problem
I'll
of
be back in like 30
subjectivity.
minutes. You watch.
One of the ironic implications of this metaphor is that no one can confidently claim to be free from the fate of the frog. The frog.
No one
believes
is
there
free
no
from the fate of the frog.
outside its small world.
Yo,
So its knowledge of its small world is supposed to
bro,
be universally valid everywhere.
I
But
can't.
how can the world of those who laugh at the frog be guaranteed not to be another well? The haughty and self-confident smile on their faces will freeze as soon as this question is posed. After all, is the Japan which Pollock describes any different from the China which the Japanese imagined on the walls of their well? In a sense, the fracture of meaning is haunted by a sense of insecurity, which seemingly stems from an implicit knowledge that somebody may ask this question
Stop
anytime.
fucking Los Federalizing me.
Undertaken to repress this
Man,
is the
these
setting
cops
of
are on my
universal
ass.
opposition
On
from
my
which the
tail.
author speaks in universal terms. A ubiquitous and transcendent stance from which he views things. It is arranged to appear natural that Pollock's words are automatically registered as metalanguage. His language
metalanguage?
posits the U.S. with whom he wishes to speak, and his we, the speaking subject of this metalanguage, coincides with the West and with America in particular. Thus, once more, the West assumes its ubiquity and universality.
Yo,
in the
thank you,
midst of its
Mokuba, for
particular.
gifting 5 subs
Needless
to
say,
literally
Pollock's
every
argument
chatter right now.
presupposes
Chat,
that the opposition of theory,
make sure you thank Mokuba.
universal,
Mokuba's a G.
and the object of theory,
She's not getting
particular,
fucking mod here though.
corresponds to that of
There's only one mod in this channel, and it's
privileged
me.
object of discourse called Japan is thus
Woo!
constituted
Wow, look at all
in
these
order to
fuckers.
show us the
Everyone, no,
supposedly
at Mokuba
concrete
right now.
instance of
Say thank you.
particularism
Stop the
in
music. Stop the music. Stop it. Actually, no, the music can still run. It's fire. No, I'm not making Mokuba mod. Everybody thank Mokuba right now. Everyone thank Mokuba. Fucking add her in chat right now and thank her. Do it.
contrast
Thank
to which our
you.
universalism
Thank
is
you.
ascertained.
Thank you.
Japan is defined as a specific and unitary particularity in universal terms. Japan's uniqueness and
Spore.
identity are provided insofar
Spore,
as Japan
thank
stands out
Mokuba.
as a particular object.
Right now. What do you mean you tried? No, try it
Only
fucking
when it
again.
is integrated into Western universalism does it gain its own identity as a particularity. In
No,
other words,
I'm not
Japan
fucking
becomes
salty.
endowed
I'm not
with
fucking
and
salty
aware of
squid. I'm
itself.
not fucking Oscar. I'm not modding half my fucking chatter, so all of you are gonna show up with a little fucking thing on your screen. Hold on. Pet the Yeah. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. The chat will not be filled with mods. I refuse. Let's back up a little bit. I got a little heated. Let's back up a little bit. What is he talking about? He's talking about a book that Pollock, he's writing about right now, who tried to construct a identity of Japan based on comparing it to Chinese linguistics, industrialization. All right, got it.
Which posits the U.S. with whom he wishes to speak, and his we, the speaking subject of this metalanguage, coincides with the West and with America in particular. Thus, once more, the West assumes its ubiquity and universality in the midst of its particularity. Needless to say, Pollock's argument presupposes that the opposition of theory, universal, and the object of theory, particular, corresponds to that of the West and Japan. A privileged object of discourse called Japan is thus constituted in order to show us the supposedly concrete instance of particularism, in contrast to which our universalism is ascertained. Japan is defined as a specific and unitary particularity in universal terms. Japan's uniqueness and identity are provided insofar as Japan stands out as a particular object in the universal field of the West. Only when it is integrated into Western universalism does it gain its own identity as a particularity. In other words, Japan becomes endowed with and aware of itself only when it is recognized by the West. It is no accident
Where's the
that the discourse on Japanese
there it is.
uniqueness in Nihon Jinran mentions innumerable cases of Japan's difference from the West, thereby defining Japan's identity in terms of deviations from the West. Its insistence
leave your
on Japan's
home.
peculiarity and difference from the West embodies a nagging urge to see the self from the viewpoint of the other. But this is nothing but the positing of Japan's identity in Western terms, which in return establishes the centrality of the West as the universal point of reference. This is why, despite the gestures of criticizing Japanese exclusivism and ethnocentricity, Pollock in fact eagerly embraces and endorses the Japanese particularism and racism so evident in Nihon Jinran. As a matter of fact, his entire argument would collapse without this open-handed acceptance of particularism. Contrary to what has been advertised by both sides, universalism and particularism reinforce and supplement each other. They are never in real conflict. They need each other and have to seek to form a symmetrical, mutually supporting relationship by every means in order to avoid a dialogic encounter which would necessarily jeopardize their reputedly secure and harmonized monologic worlds.
Where's the second person?
Universalism and particularism endorse each other's defect in order to conceal their own. They are intimately tied to each other in their accomplishments.
Where's the second person?
In this respect,
There's supposed to be a second person now.
particularism, such as nationalism, can never be a serious critique of universalism, for it is an accomplice thereof. Still, the relationship between the West and the non-West seems to follow the old and familiar formula of master-slave. And during the 1930s, when the times after the modern Gendai, somewhat similar to our postmodernity, were extensively examined.
Where is this person?
One of the issues that some Japanese intellectuals problematized was the West and the non-West relationship itself. In offering a diagnosis of the times, many, including young philosophers of the Kyoto school, such as Koyama Iwao and Kosaka Masaki, singled out as the most significant index the rapport between the Western, European, and the non-Western, non-European worlds.
Yo, how do I get in?
A fundamental change they observed.
I have night vision goggles?
Since the late 19th and the early 20th centuries. Until the late 19th century, history seemed to have moved linearly toward the
there you are.
The entire globe was gradually organized according to
I need something.
Which
Man,
ultimately would allow
stop the
for
yapping.
only one center. First of all, history appeared to be an unending process of unification and centralization, with Europe at the center.
The globalists, the fucking globalists. Guys, schizoanalysis is how we defeat the globalists. Schizoanalysis is how we save the world. We're gonna fucking save the world, chat. I need to actually take off one of my earphones so I know that I'm not fucking yelling and screaming my ears out, because these fucking walls of this apartment are so thin they can hear me screeching. They can hear me screeching at night when the night terrors fucking get to me. Oh, the fucking cops, they can't even get to me. They can't fuck. The globalists are the Kwanzis, are the people trying to compare. They're trying to make a metric. They're trying to compare. Guys, meters have never meant anything until we discovered the speed of fucking light. That's when meters actually meant something concrete, something universal, and even fuck, the cops are after me. Even fucking universal. It's now. It's not. The speed of light can change with gravitational waves. It's all fucking relative. Oh my god. Chat, schizoanalysis is the only way we're gonna save the future. That's it. That's it. That's it. Let's see.
Simply as the process of Westernization, Europeanization. In this historical scheme, the entire world was viewed from the top and was thought of as being Western in the sense that the rest of the world was taken to be that which was doomed to be Westernized. Essentially, as is best represented by Hegelian historicism, the history of the world was European history. However, toward the late 19th century, Koyama claims, the non-Western world began to move toward its independence into
I need something else for this house. I need a tranquilizer for this house.
Transformation, what had
I can do this.
been taken for the entire world,
I'm not a good enough thief.
was revealed to be a merely modern,
I'll smash it at
world,
108.
a world among many
Fuck
worlds. This possibility for historical cognition and praxis, informed by the fundamental historical transformation of the world, was then called world history.
108?
In this world history, it was assumed
Chat,
that
if you think it's
historical
clippable, clip
changes
it.
simply could not be comprehended without reference
Don't make
to the
me do
already
it.
established
108?
social
Where the fuck is 108? Oh, it's at the bottom.
Geography,
There we go.
race, nation.
But you guys
culture,
might
etc.
miss stream. I mean, you guys were
Only
gonna
within
miss
the
stream
framework
anyways
set
to
up by
like
those
advertisements.
categories was it possible to understand historical developments and make sense out of various changes, which were to be incorporated into a larger unit of
Oh,
knowledge.
they're out of the house right now.
What this
Fuck,
simple
fuck, fuck. How did that cost
undeniable
$34?
recognition pointed to was that history was not only temporal or chronological, but also spatial and relational. The condition for the possibility of conceiving of history as a linear and evolutionary series of incidents lay in its not as yet thematized relation to other histories,
Tenant
other
is armed.
coexisting temporalities.
I gotta wait
Whereas monistic
until
history,
20.
Ichigen Teki Rikishi, did not know its implicit reliance on other histories
Yo,
and
what's
thought
this?
itself autonomous and total, world history conceived of itself as the spatial relations of histories.
Oh, I've got stuff in my
In
backpack
world
that I can
history,
sell.
therefore, one could not think of history exclusively in those terms, which referred back only to that same history. Monistic history could not deal with the world as it was apprehended.
Why
in world
is
history,
this bro
since
yapping
the
about
world is primarily
monistic
a sphere of
history?
heterogeneity and others. To what extent Koyama's world history was capable
Okay.
of facing heterogeneity and others, and whether or
Let's
not
open it.
world history would ever be able to be exposed to them in their heterogeneity
iPhone?
and otherness
How do
will
I
be
grab
examined
this?
later.
That's it?
But I should note that this notion of otherness,
Wallet? Yoink? Headset?
heterogeneity, was always defined in terms of differences
F for
among
flashlight?
or between nations, cultures, and histories, as if there had been no differences in heterogeneity within one nation, culture, and history. For Koyama, heterogeneity and otherness were at most moments of international differences. An oblivion of spatial
I need to come
predicates,
back.
which reveals itself as the truth of
Oh,
monistic
the pawn shops are
history
right here. Let's
at the
go.
moment of the emergence of world history, comes from certain historical conditions. Unless the historical and cultural world is seriously challenged and influenced by another, it would never reach an awareness that its own world can never be directly equated to the
Money,
world
money,
around it,
money, money, money,
and would
money.
continue to fantasize about itself as being the
What
representative
do we? Hold on, we're
and
fantasizing now?
representation of the totality. Eurocentric history is one of the
Holy fuck! Now we're actually halfway through. I lied. Holy shit! The media player was just showing me how much time was left on the right. Oh my god! Now we're actually halfway through.
most typical
Holy
cases
shit!
of
We're
this.
powering.
For it, the world does not exist. But Koyama also adds Japanese national history to the list. Japanese national history is another example of monistic history in which, in spite of the fact that Japan has been challenged and influenced by other histories and cultures, it has yet to arrive at the knowledge that history resides in those interactions with others, due to its island situation, Shimaguni Tekijoken. What Koyama brought into awareness is the fact that the very identity of a
How do I
history
pass
is
time?
constituted by its interdependence with other histories, things other than itself. Precisely because monistic history does not recognize the conditions for the possibility of its own identity, it naively expands its specific values indefinitely and continues to insist upon the universal validity of those values. It misunderstands and misconstrues the moment according to which the necessity to claim its universality and the insistence upon its identity are simultaneously inaugurated. Thus, the moment of otherness is deliberately transformed in order to maintain its putative centrality as the initiator of the universe.
Okay, so what he's saying is that fascism needs to continuously fabricate something new, right? Happy Pride? Fuck yeah, Happy Pride. Happy Pride.
In the commensurability of universal and particular values. This
Actually, no, fuck you
leads to the
guys.
annihilation
Fuck
of
your
the other.
prideful celebrations, your 7 deadly sins, your gay-ass parades, the wonderful bounty of colors. Yeah. We're taking the hard right-wing pivot right now, chat. That's right. You're starting it here right now. The grift, it's all starting right now. The grift worked on Makuba. The right-wing grift? Anyways, I don't know how right-wing I am. We need to figure out what's going on in this essay again. I feel like I've lost track. Wrath is next month. Yeah, Wrath is protest month. Alright, aren't you for sure? Bro! Are you gonna call the cops? Please don't call the cops. You can head on outside. It's okay, I'll close it. There's no reason to call the cops. You're supposed to be out of the house right now. Alright.
And its otherness. Probably the mission which
Basically, fascism cannot isolate itself into itself because we are always in relationship to everything else.
monistic history believes itself to take charge of is best
I'm gonna call it
summarized with the
Ghostbusters.
following
That's what I'm gonna call.
They are just like us. Of course,
Leave!
Remember,
I slept in a parking lot for you to leave your home.
Another statement.
Oh my.
We are just like them, in which the centrality of us is not ensured. That is, the inferiority and the power of us is instituted instead of the superiority. but these form a supplementary pair.
Hold on. Wait. What are we doing? Koyama? Who the fuck is Koyama? Monasticism? Mm-hmm. I didn't get to this part of the essay, right? Me? I don't look suspicious at all. White collar crime is fake. Yo! Why were the cops called? What is going on? All I was doing was standing outside your house ready to rob you. You're not gonna shoot me, are you? Yo. See you later, officer. Yup. The big chase right now. I'm making it this time. They're not getting me. I cannot believe they would pull a gun out on somebody just for standing outside their house. Like, what is this, America? Kinda looks like an American neighborhood. Too much like, bro, why are you living your life in fear? You don't even know you don't even have the same HUD as me, you're an NPC. Oh, nice, we're done. We're done? I don't have to keep driving around? Yo, what is going on here? Oh, shit. This entire town has, like, shut down. Oh, the cops are there. Yo, stop it. He went the wrong way, idiot. Wait. Yeah. It's costing me money to escape the police. Alright. But I'm at 0 stars. Alright, hold on. Where are we? Koyama, non-Western world began to move towards its own independence and form its own world. Okay, right, so we're moving from Japan's relationship to China to Japan's relationship with America. And then we made world history. I love world history. It's so great. Not yet femized, relationship to other histories, coexisting temporalities. Monastic history did not know its implicit relationship to other histories and thought itself autonomous. Total world history. Okay, so we should teach, you know, as many perspectives of history as we possibly can. Where are the cops? They're like genuinely bad at their job. How am I still at 1 star? I've done literally nothing. No, they're not getting me. I'm just parked. Okay. Therefore, to what extent Koyama's world history was capable of facing heterogeneity and others... Yo, did they find me? No, I'm reading. Has been no differences. One nation was a moment of international differences. Yeah, okay. At oblivion of spatial predicates, which reviews itself as truth. Okay, yeah, so monastic nations who exclude themselves or isolate themselves find it hard to sustain themselves without, you know, generating new fantasies of who they are and what they represent.
Monistic history has worked in the service of a certain historically specific domination, a form of domination which is not ceased to be turbulent in its effect even today.
I wonder what kind.
However, Koyama saw and tried to seize a turning point in the development of monistic history. He insisted that another history, world history, which recognizes other histories, was about to emerge. And this emergence should mark a fundamental change in relationship between the subject of history and its others.
Yo!
It should indicate that the monistic history
what the fuck? American police!
Was no longer
Can you believe that?
In this new history,
what the fuck? They didn't even pull out their gun. They just rammed me. My truck meant nothing.
Spatial terms would of necessity be incorporated into a history that would have to be construed as a synthesis of time and space and internationalized. What Koyama advocated may sound like a genuinely pluralistic history as opposed to a linear singular one. And if one were to believe all that has been said, this transition from monistic history to world history should mark a radical historical change, leading to a different power arrangement in which cultural, national, and historical particularities are fully respected. All the cultural worlds would then be mediated not by what Kosaka Masaki called the ontological universals, Yuteki Fuin, but by the
Yuteki Fuin. Yuteki Fuin. I cast Yuteki Fuin. Rah! Boom! Oh, hold on. I'm gonna, hold on. Yuteki Fuin!
Mu Teki Fuin. And
Bad bird, bad bird, what you gonna do? Bad bird, gonna smash a few.
The historical break which would allow one to objectify the limits of the modern discourse. In short, a genuine postmodernity. In this context, it is noteworthy that, for Koyama, as well as for Kosaka, the unity of the subject of history, of pluralistic history, is unequivocally equated to that of the nation-state. Yet they stress that the nation-state does not immediately correspond to a race, jinshu, or folk, Merjminzoku. The state for them is a being for itself, which is opposed to other states, and, in this regard, it exists in
Naive.
The state, therefore,
Naive.
is not likened to other entities such as race, nation, clan, or family, precisely because it has to be mediated by its relationships
I'm doing alright.
with
I'm feeling
other
good.
states, and consequently
Enjoying.
self-reflective. That is, a subject. On the other hand, the nation designates a community rooted in nature, a community where people are
Yeah, you want me to
born.
be real? You want me to stop the music? Stop the music. We're being real. We're being real. Salty, you're asking me how am I doing? I'm doing alright. But you know, these 2 weeks have been hard. We're pretty much sacrificing the entire experiment. We're finishing the experiment. The experiment is done. We're sacrificing all our rats. They are meeting joyous endings, and we will learn many things, hopefully to improve people's lives. Bro, what? Bro, what? Not Salty Squid streams, not you. I don't give a fuck what you're doing. Your actual bird? Bro, what? I am the bird. What are you talking about? I am the actual bird. Bro, you want to see the bird? I'll show you the fucking bird. Salty, you want to see the bird? I'll show you the fucking bird. This is how the bird is doing, you huh? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I saw her recently. She sat on my shoulder. It was very nice. Back to the essay.
Die. The bondage that keeps its members together is that of blood, procreation, and land, and is natural in the sense
Blood,
that the tie
procreation,
between
and
mother
land.
child is natural. Koyama issues a warning disclaimer here. The nation as a natural community can never be the subject of history because it is not mediated by universals. The natural community, Kosaka refers to it as substance, Katai, is not a subject in itself, for it has yet to be rationalized. The natural community must be represented by the state. Only through the state, the natural community is identified as the nation for itself.
What the
And
fuck? What
only
else am I
through
supposed to
this
smash?
representation to itself does the nation become historical and generate its own culture, a historical world of its own.
Oh, we're smashing this.
At this stage, a nation forms a history or historical world of its own.
Nice. I leveled
with
up.
the
Let's
state
go.
as its
Wait, I
subject.
can afford the tranquilizer
While
now.
rejecting Hegelian philosophy as an extension of monistic history, Koyama rigorously follows Hegelian construction. Accepting all the modern
Damn.
premises,
Nothing new under the Hegelian sun. Nothing new under the Hegelian sun. Yeah, I'm gonna trank them. I'm gonna enter the home. I'm gonna trank them. Oh, chat. Nobody told me. We need to bring back Swan Lake. How far are we into Swan Lake? Holy shit. Alright, we're finishing up disc 1 of Swan Lake. Hi, Ice Beams. Hello, welcome to the stream. We're enjoying what President Sunday always wished he was. We're doing that stream. That's exactly what the stream is. We're listening to Swan Lake while listening to an essay getting read to us by an eigenvector. Say hi to all the nice people in chat. Yup. Hi, Salty. I love Salty.
Koyama attempts to change merely their historical view. By introducing pluralistic
Okay,
world
we need to get
history
Trent Gun.
and thereby claiming to go beyond modernity, Kindai, he endorses almost everything
Found a
the
door
Japanese
open?
state has
I'm gonna be
acquired
so
under the
gone,
name of
you won't
modernization.
even know what happens.
The critique of the West and of the modern expressed in his critique of monistic history seems to disclose the fact that the whole rhetoric of anti-modernity is in fact a cover for the unprincipled endorsement of anything modern. When Kosaka and Koyama deal with the issues on which the
Unprincipled
critique of
endorsement?
the West is most urgent, the issues related to the Sino-Japanese situations during the 1930s.
Holy
and
shit, they
early
fumbled the bag? Okay, so they're rejecting Hegelian philosophy as an extension of monastic history. Yeah, it's fascist. Construction, sure. Modern premises, okay. Go beyond modernity, but they fuck up. Okay, let's see.
1940s.
Yeah,
In a
that's right.
roundtable talk held in November 1941,
Where is it?
Kosaka, Koyama, and others refer to the relationship between historical development
Yo, night
and the
vision
morality
goggles?
of a nation.
Let's
Koyama,
go. Drug
the
farm
subject
plan?
Shutai of moral energy should be the nation.
Chat, I don't know.
Kokumen,
We might be playing this game
the
for a while. It's
nation
kind of
is the
awesome.
key to every problem.
Tranquilizer gun.
Moral energy has
Specialization
nothing to do
level
with individual
3.
or personal ethics, or the purity of blood. Both culturally and politically, the nation is the center of moral energy. Kosaka. That is right.
Specialization level 3.
The folk Minsoku
What?
in itself is meaningless. When the folk gains subjectivity, shutui say, it necessarily turns into a national folk, kokoteki Minzoku. The folk without subjectivity or self-determination, jikogente, that is, the folk that has not transformed itself into a nation, kokumin, is powerless. For instance, a folk like the Ainu could not gain independence and has eventually been absorbed into other folk that has been transformed into...
Chat, do we know who the Ainu are? They were like the indigenous Japanese people. So that's why they, you know, they're still sort of like Hegel cooked. They're still nation cooked. I need to cook. I do need to cook. That'd be awesome to cook.
a nation.
I'm trying to figure
I
out.
wonder if the Jews
How do I
would
get this?
follow the same fate.
Yo, what?
I think the subject of world
Hold up.
history...
What the fuck? Oh, okay, so he's quoting the guy who made the shitty argument. Okay, so he's saying any time that you, the folk gain subjectivity, it's also how they gain power, and it's also how they lose their, like, independence and own self-determination. And he's like, holy fuck, I wonder if the Jews would follow the same fate? That's so funny.
Must be a national...
Alright, let's see, what does he have to say about this?
One can hardly discern any difference between this understanding of modern subjectivity and that of the Hegelian dialectic. First of all, the modern nation must
Specialization
be an
level
embodiment of the
3.
will.
What?
Jikogendasai. That is to say, the subject of the nation is, at the same time, self-determination, the determination of the self as such, and the determining self, the self that determines itself. And the modern nation must externalize itself in order to be aware of itself and to realize its will. Hence, it is, without exception, a nation representing itself.
Where's specialization level 3?
It is the
Bro, what?
synthesis of a folk, irrational, and the state, rational.
Wait, that's so far down. How am I supposed to rob this place?
Individuality,
I'm good at
folk, so that the nation cannot coincide with the folk immediately. In order for the folk to transform itself into the nation, the folk must be negatively mediated by other folks. That is, the stronger folk must conquer and subjugate other weaker folk.
That's right. I tricked you guys. This was actually an anti-Hegelian stream. I think if America ever became self-aware, time would stop. That's an interesting proposition. And I think he gets to that later.
Folks in order to form the nation. The fragility of their anti-modern rhetoric becomes all the more apparent when the pluralistic world history is discussed in the context of the contemporary historical situation. In another roundtable talk
I can hack.
titled,
I can become sport.
Tuakiyoiken no Rinrisei to Rikishisei, Ethics and Historicality of Great East Asian Co-Prosperity Sphere, held about 3 months after the previous one with the same participants, they directly relate the issue of history to the Sino-Japanese relationship.
That's kind of far down.
Kosaka. The Sino-Japanese War, Shina Jihen, involves many things and is extremely complex. But the final factor which determines the outcome should be the question, which morality is superior, the Japanese or Chinese one? Of course, political and cultural maneuvers are very important.
Required level 16?
Towards the Chinese is even more important.
Required level 9?
We should consider measures.
Bro, I can't unlock any of these.
We should send many of our morally excellent people over there to show our moral energy so that the people over there would be persuaded to convince themselves of our moral superiority. The Sino-Japanese War is also a war of morality. Now that we have entered the Great East Asian War...
These damn Nietzscheans being like, oh, where's the morality, where's the morality? Fuck off. There's no music? Yeah. That's a sad part of the song. There's like intense parts. There's chill parts. Maybe I just need to equalize it better. Fine. Yeah. It's still there. Don't you worry. Tchaikovsky. No. I was not. I feel like I wish I was. Maybe. My, like, high school debate partner, was an immigrant, and she loved Nietzsche so much. I couldn't fucking understand it. I didn't understand it. It made no sense to me. And I don't know. She would show me the memes, and I was like, meh, okay. Wow, life doesn't matter? Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of Christian, so like, whatever, bro. Kind of crazy. Insane. Whatever. Nietzsche stands out. See you later.
The war is much
the door
larger than
is
scale
right
now.
there.
Namely,
Nietzsche
the war
stands.
between the
See the door.
Oriental morality and the Occidental morality. Let me put it differently.
7 missions from
question
Hellneighbor.
is,
I need to
which
do this last
morality
one.
will play a more important
Or maybe
role
I can
in
get
world
a
history in the
different
future.
mission.
It is
That'd probably be
amazing
better.
that they could still talk not only about the Japanese nation's morality, but also about its superiority over the Chinese one at that stage. Imagining the national atmosphere around that time in which these utterances were made, one would rather
There's probably
refrain
another one
from
that I can
asking
grab.
whether or not Kosaka was joking. Nevertheless, it is at
Yo, is this
least
guy trolling?
worthwhile noting that the relationship between the Japanese and Chinese moralities is put in a sort of dialectic.
Oh no.
Kosaka seems confident that the superiority
What am
of
I doing
Japanese morality
Hell
would
neighbor.
eventually be proven as if the
Assault?
whole thing had been guaranteed by Japanese military
Yo.
superiority. For
Where's the store
Kosaka,
is way easier.
historical process involves a series of inevitable conflicts in which the morality of one nation is judged against that of another. Thus, the incident in China, the Sino-Japanese War, is a moral war, and the war over the Pacific is also a war which will decide the moral superiority of the East or the West in view of the ultimate morality of the totality.
So this guy was pretty
That is
influential
all of
during World War
humanity.
II. Alright, so
In
Japan
this
lost.
sense, history as he conceives of it is the history
Or maybe he
of
was
moral
tapped into the
development
zeitgeist.
toward the establishment of morality for
Who knows?
humanity, toward the ultimate emancipation of humankind. Despite repeated denunciation of the term humanism, Kosaka is never able to resist the temptation of justifying the status quo in terms of humanism. In other words, his critique of humanism and modernity is, in fact, a thinly disguised celebration thereof. Apart from an incredible conceit expressed in this passage, there is a theoretical formation which clearly contradicts the premises of pluralistic world history. To imagine the relationship between China and Japan in terms of the war of Chinese and Japanese moralities is to posit a dialectical relationship between the two moralities. This means that, in the optimistic imagination, Japanese morality will eventually prove its universality as well as the particularity of Chinese morality. This would necessarily be a process in which particularities would be subjugated to the domination of a universality. Koyama said, "The Chinese have subjective sense of their sinocentrism,
Yo,
but do
unknown.
not have an objective consciousness of
Come on.
the world.
Leave your house, bud.
While there is a moral in China, there is moral
I need to plant some
energy in
evidence.
Japan.
I need to frame you for something.
What we see here is the ugliest aspect of universalism, and it should not be forgotten that this is, after all, the reality of Koyama's pluralism. Not only a Japanese victory over China was presumed and unquestioned, but also Japanese moral superiority was assumed. The temporary military superiority of Japan, which after all was faked by national mass media, was thought to guarantee
True.
the right to speak condescendingly.
Love
If this
love
dialectic
love
movement
military
between
parades.
universalistic and particularistic moralities had proceeded as it was imagined, it would eventually eliminate the pluralistic coexistence of many histories and traditions passionately advocated in the critique of monistic history. Within the scheme of the universalism-particularism pair, the plural subjects would
Oh,
gradually be organized
so this fucking
as
Kotaka guy
particularities
ruined his
subject-
entire point when exploring like the previous cultures of Japan, just to go, damn, them Chinese sure had it coming in the Sino-Japan War. Damn, unlucky. That's so funny. Damn, he was close. He almost got there. Let's go. We got 20 minutes left.
to a single center of universalism. How then can one possibly avoid the detested monistic history? For world history would be no different from the history of progress toward the complete dominion by one center. Koyama and Kosaka think they are entitled to accuse the Chinese for their lack of a world historical sense, for their insolence, and finally for their particularism. They felt entitled to do so because they thought they were speaking from the position of universalism. Pluralistic world history proves itself to be another version of monistic history. I do not know how one could possibly avoid this conclusion when the subjects of world history are equated to nations. How can one put forward an effective critique of modernity when one affirms and extols one's national identity as the sole base for historical praxis?
Where am I going?
And their critique of modernity
Where's this shit that I'm
is
supposed to
at
plant?
best some guise of anti-imperialism under which Japanese modernity, including the inevitable consequences of its expansionist impulse, is open-handedly endorsed. What annoyed them in monistic history is not the fact that many were suppressed and
Yo, it's
deprived of
prepared.
a sense of self-respect.
Where am I supposed to plant this?
Because of its Eurocentric arrangement. What they were opposed to was the fact that, in that Eurocentric arrangement of the world, the putative unity of the Japanese happened to be excluded from the center. And what
Bro!
they wished to realize was to change the world so that the Japanese would occupy the position of the center and of the subject which determines other particularities
fuck up?
in its own universal terms.
I did fuck up.
In order to achieve
Bro,
this goal,
I've got nothing
they
to
would
plant.
approve anything Western
It
on
didn't give me
condition
anything
that
to
it
plant.
conforms to the structure.
Did I not
of the
accept the
modern
quest? I
nation
swear I
state.
did.
Far from being
Hell,
an
neighbor.
anti-Western determination, what motivated them
Who-
was the
who-
will to
no.
pursue the path of modernization. Insofar as centralization
Oh, I've got a
and
notepad. Wait, that's kinda
homogenization
useful.
is part and parcel of modernization, their philosophy of world history paradoxically
Missions.
illustrates the
Done that.
inevitability of war by showing the impossibility of the coexistence of many centers. And the disastrous failure of this philosophy indicates that Japan was already
Yo, what the
so
fuck?
far modern.
Yo, is he cooking again? Chat, is he cooking again? Hold on. I gotta rewind. We gotta rewind a little bit. Music's intense. Let's let the music run out. Yeah. While we crash into a fucking tree. Oh my god. Alright, I gotta figure out where we are in the passage again. Because he's cooking again, I think, right? Because, like, what happens when you've got multipolarities who believe themselves to be the center of the universe? Like, what are the consequences of that? Is that the path to war? I love brass sections. Brass sections are, like, awesome. Nothing goes harder than, like, big band brass. In Georgia store, I was in the wrong damn place. Oh, it was 105. I can't. That's so embarrassing. I went to 108. Oh, yeah. All right, let's get back into this. We're getting on track.
Many were suppressed and deprived of the sense of self-respect in the world because of its Eurocentric arrangement. What they were opposed to was the fact that, in that Eurocentric arrangement of the world, the putative unity of the Japanese happened to be excluded from the center. And what they
105.
wished to realize was to change the world so that the Japanese would occupy the position of the center and of the subject which determines other particularities in its own universal terms.
In its
In order to
own
achieve
universal
this goal,
terms.
They would
Yep.
approve anything Western on condition that it conforms to the structure of the modern nation state. Far from being an anti-Western determination, what motivated them was the will to pursue the path of modernization. Insofar as centralization and homogenization is part and parcel of modernization, their philosophy of world history paradoxically illustrates the inevitability of war by showing the impossibility of the coexistence of many centers. And the disastrous failure of
Coexistence
this
of many
philosophy
centers.
indicates that Japan was already so far modernized that it would necessarily initiate the movement toward universalism and would never be able to rid itself of the impulse to universalize and totalize, despite all the rhetoric of anti-modernism. Perhaps the most crucial point the philosophers of world history did not realize was that Japan did not stand outside the West. Even in its particularism, Japan was already implicated in the ubiquitous West, so that neither historically nor geopolitically could Japan be seen as the outside of the West. This means that
Yeah, 'cause
in
they
order to
modeled their,
criticize
like,
the
nation
West in
state after
relation
the
to
West.
Japan, one has necessarily to begin with a critique of Japan. Likewise, the critique of Japan necessarily entails
I'm
a
gonna need
radical
meat.
critique of the West. So it seems to me that, insofar as one tries to speak from the position of us, the
I need to learn more about
putative
them, I
unity of
guess.
either the West
I don't
or
have enough.
Japan, one would never be able to
He's
escape
leaving?
the dominion of the Universalism, Particularism pair. One would
Huh.
never be effective in criticism.
I'm leaving the
no matter
dog.
how radical
I'm just
or
gonna throw bait for the dog. Birds and dogs have no hatred, no bad
After
blood,
Japan's defeat in
no bad birdie
1945,
blood between me and dogs.
Takeuchi Yoshimi was one of
There's no
those
dogs in the pond,
intellectuals who
except
engaged
Smug.
themselves
Smug's
in
a
the
dog.
serious examination of Japanese morality in relation to China, and openly admitted that the war Japan had just lost was a war between Chinese and Japanese moralities.
I need
Brilliantly, he
105.
demonstrated the
Burglar
inevitability of
Awareness
Japan's
Day.
defeat on both
What is that?
socioeconomic
I'm gonna
and
sleep through
moral
Burglar
grounds.
Burglar
Japan
Awareness
proved
Day.
itself morally defeated on its own terms. However, Takuchi was also one of the few who refused to ignore a certain legitimacy in what incited many, including the philosophers of world history,
What?
to a rhetoric of pluralism, despite the fact that, during the war, he was among those who despised and refused the idea of a great East Asian co-prosperity sphere, advocated by people like the philosophers of world history. By every means, he tried to sustain an intellectual concern.
Okay, so he's still talking about Kosaka, the guy who was initially cooking with particularism.
Japan's defeat. In a manner similar to Koyama's definition of monistic history, Takuchi draws attention to the involuntary
wait, these
nature
are different
of
people.
modernity for the non-West. Here, too, the term of modernity must
Unknown?
signify not only a temporal or chronological, but also a spatial
What do you mean
concept in the
unknown?
sense that the significance of modernity for the non-West would never be grasped unless it is apprehended in the non-West's spatial relationship to the West. Modernity for the Orient, according to Takeuchi, is primarily its subjugation to the West.
Bro, you don't look so good.
Military and economic control. The modern Orient was born only when it was invaded, defeated, and exploited by the West. This is to say that only when the Orient became an object for the West did it enter modern times. The truth of modernity for the non-West, therefore, is its reaction to the West. Takuchi insists that it must be so precisely because of the way modernity is shaped with regard to the problematic concerning the subjective identity of the West. Modernity is the self-recognition of Europe, the recognition of Europe's modern self as distinct from her feudal self, a recognition rendered possible only in a specific historical process in which Europe liberated itself from the feudalistic, with her liberation being marked by the emergence of free capital and economy, or the establishment of modern personality as an independent and equal individual in human relations. Europe is possible only in this history, and inversely, it can be said that history is possible only in Europe. For history is not an an eternal instance at which one struggles to overcome difficulties.
Yo, did he
in order
pepper spray me?
thereby to be one's own self.
Where's my car?
Without this, the self would be
Why can't I
lost.
run?
History would be lost. The West Europe.
I carry too much. No, don't tase me, don't tase me, don't tase me.
Strives to transform itself.
Don't tase me, bro.
Positively, the West is not.
Oh, I'm
but
chill.
Only reflectively it is. Her Europe capital
See you later, bud.
desires to expand her.
No!
The missionaries are committed in the mandate to expand her through
Fuck. Oh, fuck. Yeah. Hold on. I need a break after that. I need a break. Ay. That hurt so much. I feel like I didn't deserve that. I feel like I was doing well. I can't understand why I cannot buy these people's, like, lives online right now. Bro, are you for real? Get out of my way. I need to buy these people's lives. What is their schedule? It was 105. Okay. We need to figure out where we are in this essay. We're backtracking slightly.
one might put on.
Yep.
After
Right here.
Japan's defeat in 1945, Takeuchi Yoshimi was one of those few intellectuals who engaged themselves in the serious examination of Japanese morality in relation to China, and openly admitted that the war Japan
Yeah, damn. I wonder if Japan did any, like, heinous things during World War II to China, and, like, whether or not that should be reflected on, or it should be like, oh, it's over. Hey. Oh, sorry, Chad.
had
Excuse
just
me.
lost was a war between Chinese and Japanese moralities. Brilliantly, he demonstrated the inevitability of Japan's defeat on both socioeconomic and moral
Brilliantly?
grounds.
What the fuck?
Japan proved itself morally defeated on its own terms.
Yeah.
However, Takuchi was also one of the few who refused to ignore a certain legitimacy in what incited many, including the philosophers of world history,
I guess I just have to get good.
to a rhetoric of
Oh,
pluralism,
let's bring back.
despite the fact that, during the war, he was among those who despised and refused the idea of a great East Asian co-prosperity sphere, advocated by people like the philosophers of world history. By every means, he tried to sustain an intellectual concern about the problem of Western domination, which of course did not disappear with Japan's defeat. In a manner similar to Koyama's definition of monistic history, Takeuchi draws attention to the involuntary nature of modernity for the non-West. Here too, the term of modernity must signify not only a temporal or chronological, but also a spatial concept in the sense that the significance of modernity for the non-West would never be grasped unless it is apprehended in the non-West's spatial relationship.
I got too greedy.
Modernity for the Orient,
That's all it was.
Takeuchi, is primarily its subjugation to the West's political, military, and economic control. The modern Orient was born only when it was invaded, defeated, and exploited by the West. This is to say that only when the Orient became an object for the
Hold
West
on.
did it
Let me close this door so he doesn't freak out.
The truth of
There we go.
modernity for the non-West, therefore, is its reaction to the West. Takeuchi insists that it must be so precisely because of the way modernity is shaped with regard to the problematic concerning the subjective
I'm so
identity
slow.
of the
I'm
West.
waddling. I'm a bird waddling.
Modernity is the self-recognition.
Yeah, that was a
of Europe.
sneeze.
The
I'm sorry, I
recognition
can't.
of
Maybe I
Europe's
should like
modern
just
self
mute
as
or
distinct
turn
from
away.
her
That would
feudal
probably be
self.
good.
A recognition rendered possible only in a specific
Just making sure your
historical
eardrums are
process
broken by the
in
time you're
which
done with the
Europe
stream.
liberated itself from the feudalistic.
Because
with
what kind
her
of bird
liberation
stream would it
being
be
marked by
if
the
your
emergence of
eardrums
free
weren't
capital
bleeding?
and economy, or the establishment of modern personality as an independent and equal individual in human relations. Europe is possible only in this history, and inversely, it can be said that history is possible only in Europe. For history is not an empty form of time. It consists in an eternal instance
Sell
at which
all.
one struggles to overcome difficulties in order thereby to be one's own self. Without this, the self would be lost. History would be lost.
Yep.
The West Europe cannot be the West unless it continually strives to transform
Okay,
itself.
let's see.
Positively, the West
Modernity is a self-recognition of Europe. Yeah, okay. And then pre-modernity is the opposites, which is everything in relation to the self-recognition of Europe through rationalism, through industrialization, and then post-modernity is the analysis and inspection of that to varying degrees, because history is not an empty form of time. It is non-unilinear, and it's incredibly complicated. Self would be lost. Okay, what? Only possible in this theory for history is not an empty form of time. It consists in an internal instance at which struggles over which to come difficulties in order to thereby to become one's own self. Yeah, okay. I mean, you know, life naturally gives us struggles. No, I definitely got a license to drive this car. Oh, this guy. Do we just wait until burglar awareness day is over? I think so. That's what we're doing. We're robbing these people at night. I think that's what we're doing. 105 is getting robbed at night. I need a... There we go. Sleep. Okay, hold on. I don't understand why he says this. Without this, the self would be lost. History would be lost. He says for history is not an empty form of time. It consists in an eternal instance at which history is an eternal instance at which one struggles to overcome difficulties in order to thereby be one's own self. Yeah. Okay, this is sort of like when I was on Wix panel yesterday, and I told them that history is a present thing that our neurons are currently engaging with each other to connect, you know, and build the words that are coming out of my mouth. That's history.
It's not, but only reflectively it is.
No, standing outside somebody's
Europe,
home
capital
apparently
desires
is
to
a
expand
crime in
her
this game,
market.
which is ridiculous.
The missionaries are committed in the mandate to expand
Dude,
the
like,
kingdom
tell me
of
you
heaven.
hate trick-or-treating.
Through ceaseless tension, the Europeans endeavor to be their own selves. This ceaseless effort to be their own selves makes it impossible for them to remain what they are in themselves.
True.
They must take a risk of losing themselves in order to be their own selves. The idea of progress or historicism would be unintelligible without reference to this continual search for the self, a ceaseless process of self-recentering. Inevitably, the self-liberation of the West resulted in its invasion into the Orient. In invading the Orient, Europe encountered the heterogeneous, posited herself in opposition to it. At the same time, Europe's invasion gave rise to capitalism in the Orient. No doubt the establishment of capitalism there was taken as a consequence of the West's survival expansion, and it was thought to testify to progress in the history of the world and the triumph of reason.
Yep.
Of
No more
course,
internet
the
for you,
Orient
bud.
reacted to the West's expansion and put up resistance to it. Yet in this very resistance, it was integrated into the dominion of the West and served as a moment toward the completion of Eurocentric and monistic.
Alright, I've got no more room. I gotta get out of here. I gotta scram.
In this scheme, the Orient was to play the role of self-consciousness that had failed in the continual dialectical reaffirmation and recentering of the West as a self-consciousness that was certain of itself. It also served as an object.
Okay, so this is a creation of the current
West as a
Japanese identity in relationship to the West.
Thus, the Orient was expected to offer an endless series of strange and different things, whereby the familiarity of our things was implicitly affirmed. The knowledge of Oriental things was shaped after the existing power relation between the West and its other object, and, as shown in Edward Said's Orientalism, it continued to affirm and solidify that relation. But we must not forget that the Orient thus known cannot be represented to itself. It can be represented only to the West.
We should read
On the one
Orientalism
hand, the
on
West
stream.
is delimited.
That'd be awesome.
Opposed to that which is alien to it, it needs its other.
What is my
for its
inventory?
identity. On the other hand, the West is ubiquitous
Work
and invisible,
laptop
as it is
locked?
assumed to be the condition
How do I
of
unlock
the
this?
possibility for the universal
fuck?
validity of knowledge.
I
Only in
need
a
this.
discursive formation called modernity is universality possible as essentially Western universality. But, Takeuchi says, the Orient resists. He reiterates the term resistance. The Orient resists, it disturbs the West's dominion. It is important to note that the modernization of the Orient was prompted by this resistance. Here, Takeuchi stresses that if the Orient had not resisted, it would never have been modernized. Accordingly, the modernization of the Orient should not be thought of as a mere imitation of Western things, although there have been cases in which the will to resist was very weak,
Plant a package
as in Japan's
unspotted.
modernization.
Where?
As is amply shown by the fact that the Orient had to
there.
modernize and adopt things from the West in order to resist it, the modernization of the Orient attests to an advance or success for the West, and therefore it is always Westernization or Europeanization. So it necessarily appears that, even in its resistance, the Orient is subjugated to the mode of representation dominated by the West, and its attempt to resist the West is doomed to fail. The Orient cannot occupy the position of a subject.
Enjoy, bud. I got you a
To
steak.
define the Orient as that which can
Plant
never be a
package
subject,
unspotted.
it goes without saying that
Plants.
neither the West
There we
nor the Orient are immediately referenced. The unity of the West is totally dependent upon the manner in which resistance is dealt with in the gathering
Learn
together of
agility.
its
Okay,
subjective
got it.
identity. At this juncture, Takeuchi's explanation of the term resistance seems to
I
begin
should
to
get out of here. Hold
oscillate between two different readings. Meanwhile, Takeuchi points out,
Where's agility?
the Orient does not connote any internal
I don't have the
commonality among the names
I need to be level
subsumed
7.
under it. It ranges from regions in the Middle East to those in the
Subsumed
Far East.
under it.
One can hardly find anything religious, linguistic,
Okay,
or cultural
chat, this is
that
just
common among
Orientalism
those very
101.
areas. The Orient is neither a cultural, religious, or linguistic
Okay, we
unity,
got it.
nor a unified world. The principle of its identity lies outside itself. What endows it with some vague sense of unity is that the Orient is that which is excluded and objectified by the West in the service of its historical progress.
Okay, so then what happens
From the outset,
when
the Orient
that
is a
dynamic is
shadow of the
removed?
West. If the West did not
Tell us,
exist, the Orient
my
would not
my
exist
2020
either.
writing
According
friend?
to Takeuchi, this is the primary definition of modernity. For the non-West, modernity means, above all, the state of being
Learn
deprived
agility
of its
level
own
1. I need to
subjectivity.
get another
Then
level.
does the
Damn it.
non-West have to acquire its own subjectivity? His answer to this seems to harbor the kind of ambiguity so characteristic
Okay,
of
got
his
it.
entire discourse. For there is no resistance. That is, there is no wish to maintain the self. The self itself does not exist. The absence of resistance means that Japan is not Oriental. But at the same time, the absence of the self-maintenance wish, no self, means that Japan is not European. This is to say, Japan is nothing. Takeuchi says
Japan is nothing? That's so
But
sad.
is Japan really nebulous and amorphous without any inclination toward self-recentering? Because Japan does
We need to
not
take more
wish
jobs.
to be itself, to posit itself anew,
More
he
quests.
argues. It fails to be itself and also fails to be like the West.
Photograph.
His denunciation of contemporary Japan
Yeah, we're
makes it
photographing all
seem
of
as
this.
if Japan had not had any representation of itself, or the self that was not concretized in various institutions,
This can be
as
pretty
if
easily
there had
destroyed.
not been any state which imposed the sense of a nation upon those living
Okay.
in the region, as if those living in the region did not identify themselves with the nation.
I need a snipping tool of this.
As if the nation called Japan had existed for thousands of years, merely as a natural community. Japan is a modern nation. Precisely in their effort to sustain itself, people in Japanese territories
how do I
have
photograph
organized
again?
themselves as a nation
No,
and
to see
represented
walkie-talkie.
themselves in the state of that nation.
Maybe I just need to go to the place.
How could a nation without the sense of national identity possibly launch a war which lasted for more than 15 years,
100?
resulting in an amazing amount of human and economic wreckage? It seems that Takeuchi is caught in the historico-geopolitical pairing of the pre-modern and the modern, according to which, since the
He's stuck in it.
Japan should be pre-modern or at least non-modern. Instead of analyzing the pairing of the West and the non-West.
Okay, so him writing right now, critiquing these other guys, he's kind of got the blessing of modernity because he can confidently say that Japan is a modern nation, like pretty unabashedly.
The West. Takeuchi assumes the validity of this
100.
pairing in talking about Japan, but his analytical device
we go.
collapses upon the object of its analysis. This sort of misapprehension seems to derive from Takeuchi's conviction that in order to counteract the West's aggression, the non-West must form nations. Then what is heterogeneous to the West can be organized into a kind of monolithic resistance against the West. A nation can oppose heterogeneity against the West, but within the nation, homogeneity must predominate. Without constructing what Hegel called the universal homogeneous sphere, the nation would be impossible. So whether you like it or not, the modernization process and the formation of the modern nation should entail the elimination of heterogeneity within. Exactly the same type of relationship as that between the West and the non-West.
Nationalism eliminates heterogeneity, got it?
And heterogeneous elements.
Where do I take a photograph?
In this context, the nation is always
Where do I take
represented by the state, so that it is a subject
Flashlight?
to which its members are subject, whereas heterogeneous elements remain deprived of their subjectivity so that they are not subject to the subject. Insofar as he
Camera?
never loses faith in the universal emancipation of mankind, Takeuchi is certainly a modernist. Therefore, he believes that monistic world history is, after all things are considered, an inevitability, and that consequently,
Construction
the
zone is done.
emancipation will
Local
be
junkyard is
realized
next.
Not by the West, but by the Orient. In history,
It'll be
he says,
realized by the
true
Orient. It'll be
subject is the
Japan.
Orient. In
It'll
the
be.
meantime, we must
Chat, is
endure the
Australia considered the Orient? Be honest. Be honest with me. Is Australia considered the Orient? I mean, I feel like they are, you know? Like Austronesia, you know, like Indonesia's like right below them, and like Indonesia is like pretty much like Japan, you know? It's like fishing. Yeah.
elimination of heterogeneity in order to construct the nation.
Beyond
the
the
subject of
Orient?
history.
No.
It is misleading
How
to say
how am I
that
supposed to
Takeuchi
understand
is
something that is
anti-modern.
beyond
He
how I
rejects only
understand
limited
myself?
aspects of modernization.
That makes no sense.
On the other hand, one can detect a thread
100.
suggesting a different
I
reading
got
of
that.
this term resistance.
109. Yeah.
For the
Okay,
Orient,
we're going to the
resistance is
Ooh.
supposed never to contribute to the formation.
I tapped you. I
of
tapped you. I
subjective
didn't even
identity.
hit you.
In other words, resistance is not negation by means of which a subject is posited in opposition to what it negates. Hence, resistance has to be likened to negativity as distinct from negation, which continues to disturb
distinct
a
from
putative
negation.
status in which the subject is made to be adequate to itself. Here, Takeuchi is concerned with something fundamental to the whole problem of
Looking?
modernity and the West. I do
They're not
know
catching me.
what
They have no idea where I am.
resistance is. I cannot logically pursue the meaning of resistance. I dread the rationalist belief that everything can be brought into presence. I am afraid of the pressure of an irrational will which underlies the rationalist belief. And to me, that seems to be the essence of Europe. Until recently, I have noticed that I have been haunted by this feeling of fear. When I realized that many thinkers and writers in Japan, except for a few poets, did not feel what I felt and were not afraid of rationalism, and when I noticed that what they had produced in the name of rationalism, including materialism,
109.
did not look like rationalism, I felt insecure.
Whoa.
Then I came across Lu Xun. I saw Lu Xun enduring this kind of fear all by himself. If I were asked what is resistance, the only answer I have is, it is what you find in Lu Xun.
Yo, bro, what
Resistance
happens?
comes from a deeply rooted fear of the will to represent everything, the will essential for modern subjectivity. Lu Xun exemplifies a desperate effort to resist subjectivity, to resist subjection to subjectivity, and finally to resist subjection to the subject. For Lu Xun, it is impossible to assume an observational and indifferent attitude. That is the attitude of humanism. For the fool, Lu Xun himself would never be able to save the slave as humanism naively hopes.
What the fuck?
The slave is a slave precisely because he seeks to be saved. Hence, when he is awakened,
the slave is a slave because he seeks to be awakened. What the fuck? Hold on. I need to read this myself. I think. Maybe, well, I sneak in here and get a little pick of your shed. A little pick of your shed. Bam. What? It didn't work? It didn't work. What the hell? They're gonna catch me. I'm photographing the shed. I'm photographing the damn shed. Can they see me? No, they can't. Okay, we got it. We did it. Okay, hold on. What is going on right now? On the other hand, one can detect a thread suggesting different term for his reading of resistance. All right, we're learning what resistance is. It is negation rather than something, you know, negative. Right? Not hop over this? I can do this. Nope. No. All good. Nothing wrong is here. Nothing going on. Don't call the cops. Don't call the cops. Please don't call the cops. Don't call the cops. It's all good. Yeah, that's right. It's all good. It's all good. All right, this house is the next one to be hit. Okay, so we're considering what resistance is. For what it's worth, I think Sulfur has a really good understanding of resistance, and I kind of want to take it. Conviction in order to counteract the West's aggression, the non-West must form nations. Then what is heterogeneous to the West can be organized into a kind of monolith resistance against the West. So this guy's like, oh, we need to monopolize, homopolize? Holy fuck. Yo, that's kind of a banger. That's a banger term, homopolize. Okay. Homopolize their like national identity into what Hegel would call the universal homogeneous sphere. So whether you like it or not, the modernization process in the formation of the modern nation should entail elimination of heterogeneity within. Oh, he's relating it to like efficiency. I mean, he's relating like the nationism, homopolize. Yeah, I was. You did it. I was wondering how we could like link it to Oedipalized. But you take the cake on that one. In this context, the nation is always represented by the state so that it is subject to which its members are subject, whereas heterogeneous elements remain deprived of their subjectivity. Heterogeneous elements remain deprived of their subjectivity so that they are not subject to the subject. Holy fuck, this hurts my head. Oh my god. And I know it's not because I heard Hegel. I don't understand Hegel. It's because I'm trying to understand what point this guy's building up to over like 50 different paragraphs. Bro, you leaving? Oh, you're gonna leave soon, right? And I can photograph everything? Alright, I'm just gonna watch you work, bro. Oh, bro. While we read the rest of this, hold on. This sort of, he's talking about a misapprehension. His analytical devices collapse. The validity of this pairing about Japan. Okay, so the nation-state homogeneity must predominate insofar as he never loses faith in the... Okay, so we need to emancipate mankind. That's the vision of the modernist from... Oh, I see. So modernism is this fantasy of liberating people from the bondages of like a lower state into a higher like industrial nationalized state. In the meantime, we must endure the elimination of heterogeneity in order to construct the nation, the subject of history. It's misleading to say that the guy he's talking about is anti-modern. He rejects only limited aspects of modernization. Okay, so he's like a Sokdem, I guess. This Takuchi guy, right? One can detect a thread suggesting a different reading of his term resistance. Resistance is often supposed never to contribute to the formation of its subjective identity. In other words, resistance is not negation by means of which a subject is posited in opposition to which it negates. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm sort of thinking about the idea of resistance and accelerationism, right? Resistance, when we think of like wires, are, oh, good night, Sput. Have a good night. Sleep well. I'll dust your dreams with the keratin that lines the outside of my pin feathers, right? Hence, resistance has been linked to negativity. Oh, okay, so you don't need to link resistance in a particular way against an idea. Resistance can also be very similar to like electronic circuits, right? In electronic circuits, resistors consume a certain electric potential and release like energy, right? It doesn't stop it. It just sort of like organically removes like certain energy levels from the system, you know, just with time. Okay, I think I get where we're going, right? Rationalism has been a plague for humanity. The idea of nationalization, the opposition to grand narratives, got it. That's all postmodern. Got it. When I realized that many thinkers and writers in Japan, except for a few, were not afraid of, and I noticed that they had produced in the name of rationalism, including materialism. They did not look like rationalism. It felt insecure. Then he came against another guy who was doing his own form of resistance. Oh, this guy's almost out of his house soon. We're gonna rob him. If I were asked, the only answer I would say is what you find in Lu Shun. Okay, so resistance is something that you find in a person, right? It's a series of experiences that project out a long space. Okay, got it. To sort of mold it. Resistance is psychic war, I guess. There we go. We did it. Roll credit. Are we at the end of this one? Like, yeah, we're almost at the end of this one. Like, we're gonna roll credits real soon. I think we got it.
Of the most painful moment in life, he will have to experience the state of self-awareness that he is a slave. And he has to endure the fear. As soon as he gives in and begs for help, he will lose the self-awareness of his own slave status. In other words, the state of no road to follow is the awakened state. So if he still believes that there is a road to march on, he must be dreaming.
Yo, wait, this paragraph is also a banger, right? So resistance is whatever you find in Lu Shun. And then he says, for Lu Shun, it is impossible to assume that an observational and indifferent attitude that is an attitude of humanism. It is impossible to assume an observational and indifferent attitude. Oh, I see. Okay, so observational and not indifferent is the attitude of humanism? Okay, so Lu Shun is a fool, would never be able to save the slave as humanism naively hopes. You cannot save the slave, right? Lots of people going around about like freeing themselves from slavery. I listened to like a small right-wing podcast that was like, oh, you know, all these people saying you need to like love your slavery. I hate that. Fuck that. No, I'm a free man. I'm a mega free guy. The slave is a slave precisely because he seeks to be saved. Hence, so stop seeking to be saved. Okay, so this is just Buddhism? Alright, nice. We've gone from Taoism, from Hegelianism, to Buddhism, which is enlightenment. The slave is a slave precisely because he seeks to be saved. Hence, when he is awakened, he will be put into the state of no road to follow, of the most painful moment in his life. He will have to experience the state of self-awareness that he is a slave. I think a lot of Americans do need to understand that they are a slave. This is the poverty of, like, atheists. Atheists believe that they are not a slave. They are completely aware of, like, you know, what's going on. You know, there's plenty of entities outside their awareness, but they believe that they aren't a slave. But you are a slave. You are a slave to the fate. That hand is dealt you, and you have a role to play, and you better do your best. He has to endure fear. When you become self-aware, you are a slave. As soon as he gives in and begs for help, he will lose the self-awareness of his own slave status. Don't beg for help, don't beg to be saved. In other words, the state of no road to follow is the awakened state. And if he believes that there is a road to march on, he must be dreaming. Alright. We're getting real. We're getting towards the conclusion. I'm turning down Swan Lake. We're getting real. Okay?
And he continues, The slave must refuse his slave identity, but at the same time, he must refuse the dream of liberation as well. He must be a slave with the acutest sense of his miserable status and remain in the most painful awakened state in life. He must remain in the state that...
Wait, is this why Smugbug's such an asshole?
He must keep on trying to go. He rejects what he is, and at the same time, he rejects any wish to be someone other than what he is.
This is so based.
Meaning of despair
Holy
which
shit.
exists in Lu Xun, and which makes Lu Xun possible. There is no room for humanism here.
Photograph the kitchen?
Here, above all, resistance is that which disturbs the possible representational relationship between the self and its image. It is something that resists the formation of those identities which subject people to various institutions. Yet this does not liberate them. This does not lead to emancipation, because people are often subject to what they most fear through the words of emancipation. Possibly one should leave them in their sleep rather than cry aloud to wake a few of the lighter sleepers, making those unfortunate
I do think
few
ignorance is
suffer
bliss.
the
I'm so
agony.
sorry. I didn't do that shitty little fucking political compass that Smug put out like 2 months ago. I didn't fucking do it because I was gonna put ignorance is strength, and I'm so glad that we found an article
of
that agrees with
irrevocable
me.
death. But if one is determined to be awake, one must at least resist one's hope to go beyond. What enabled Takeuchi to criticize modernity seems to come from this sense of resistance. Although Takeuchi so often approves of modernism, this is what separated him from those who naively imagine the possibility of overcoming the modern. By the same gesture of emancipation, they all fall into the trap set up by modernity. As Takeuchi has given up an emancipatory ideology,
Do I have this?
he can be
I don't
all
have
the
the key.
more effectively critical of modernity, despite his commitment to
He's
certain
planning
modernist
something.
values.
I need to get it off
The
of him.
sense of uncertainty
Oh,
which
I
the
need to
term
pickpocket him, I guess.
postmodernity provokes may indicate the gradual spreading of this resistance. And I think I understand the term play best when I, unjustifiably perhaps, associate it with what Takeuchi saw in Lu Xun. Only at this stage one could talk about hope, but rather hesitantly, just as Lu Xun did in his short story, My Old Home.
I
The
do feel
access
like
of
a
hope-
lot of like modern political debates can be settled with a very like strong debate on like what slavery is. What does it mean to be coerced, right? That's what most of like these arguments are going to come down to. Although the one with Wick and like tits in like gaming was about like fantasy. They discovered a break-in? That's so crazy. How could that ever happen? I'm going the opposite direction and selling. I'm not going the opposite direction. What do you mean they were alerted to my location? Oh shit, because there were people? Uh-oh, we gotta run. Nope, 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 nope. Not catching this bird. Fly away, run. Oh, I need to like avoid people. Because they like rat me out to the police. Okay, got it. Whoa! Holy shit! Yo, that was kind of sick. Alright, nobody's gonna find me here. Right? Oh, fuck, they're coming here anyways. Running. Yeah, they won't catch me here. There's like nobody on the road now, right? I think we can chill here and we'll be fine. Hopefully. Okay. The slave must refuse his slave identity, but at the same time, he must refuse the dream of liberation as well. He must be a slave with the acutest sense of his miserable status and remain in the most painful awakened state in life. He must remain in the state that, because there is no road to follow, he must keep on trying to go. He rejects what he is, and at the same time, he rejects any wish to become someone other than who he is. This is the police were called? What do you mean? Are they tracking me again? Oh my lord. I cannot get a break to read. Okay, it means that I need to... What do you mean I'm being chased? I'm not being chased. What the fuck? Bro, you're just like opening fire in a neighborhood. Have some gun control, officer. Holy moly. Alright, there's no way the shopkeeper would like rat me out, right? The pawn owner? There's no way. Okay. Because there's no road to follow, he must keep on trying to go. He rejects what he is, at the same time he rejects any wish to be someone other than who he is. This is the meaning of despair which exists in Lu Xun, or resistance, and everything which makes resistance possible. There's room for humanism here. There's no room for humanism here. Holy shit. Yo, resistance is no room for humanism? Wait, what the fuck? Are the cops here? Oh, he just won't talk to me while the cops are on me. Got it. There is no room for humanism in resistance? That's interesting.
Made me suddenly afraid. When June 2 had asked for the incense burner and candlesticks, I had laughed up my sleeve at him. To think that he was still worshiping idols and would never put them out of his mind. Yet what I now called hope was no more than an idol I had created myself. The only difference was that what he desired was close at hand, while what I desired was less easily realized. As I dozed, a stretch of jade green seashore spread itself before my eyes, and above a round golden moon hung from a deep blue sky. I thought, hope cannot be said to exist, nor can it be said not to exist. It is just like roads across the earth. For actually the earth had no roads to begin with, but when many men pass one way, a road is made.
That was the essay. That was the essay. We're done. We did it. Chat, you did it. We did it together. How do you feel? What do you guys think? Let me know. I thought this was really cool. I thought this was really good. And here's sort of the crux of the essay. Here above all, resistance is that which disturbs the possible representational relationship between the self and its image. It is something that resists the formation of those identities which subjects people to various institutions. It does not liberate them, it does not lead to emancipation, because people are often subject to what they fear, through the words of emancipation. This does not liberate them. Okay, so we need to make people comfortable with the experience of being a slave? No. That's not right. Refuse the dream. Oh, that's right. To dream of emancipation. You must refuse the slave identity and refuse the dream of liberation. Between those two, you can navigate life, resistance, and exist as an entity that does not desire the liberation of themselves nor the emancipation of themselves, because people are the subject of what they fear through words of emancipation. So then how do we got to get through to conservatives by having them accept a certain degree of slave identity, but also break the dream of liberation? I don't know. I feel like this is too much to expect in one conversation with a person. Yeah. All right, chat. We're gonna be wrapping it up soon. Salty plans on streaming after this, so he's free to start whenever he wants. What I kind of wanted to do was listen to Jordan Peterson talk about postmodernism. What is his most popular video talking about postmodernism, right? We just had a pretty stunning long form piece of discussion. So let's get 12 minutes of Jordan Peterson yapping instead about postmodernism. How and why it must be fought, right? So he's taking the perspective of universalism from the perspective of all that Naoki was talking about, right? Capitalism, morals, the nation state.
So, I want to recommend a book first.
Oh, you fuck! I hate Jordan Peterson so much. I'm gonna rec a book first.
To everyone here, it's called Explaining Postmodernism, and it's by a gentleman named
Steve Hicks.
And you need to understand postmodernism because that's what you're up against, and you're up against it far more than.
I'm sure this guy has no spin. Hold on, let's see. Explaining Postmodernism, Skepticism and Socialism. And Socialism from Rousseau to Foucault. Tracking postmodernism from its roots in Jean Rousseau and Immanuel Kant to their development in thinkers like Foucault and Rorty. Provocative account of why postmodernism has been the most rigorous intellectual movement of the late 20th century. Bro, we're in the 21st century now. Yo, you're streaming Claire Obscura? Yo, let's fucking go. I might actually watch that. He says, okay, why do skeptical and relativistic arguments have such power in the contemporary intellectual world? contemporary intellectual world means the English reading world, by the way, right? Naoki, Japanese, writing in English for an American audience, and I guess also for a Japanese audience. Why do they have that power in the humanities but not in the sciences? What? I'm so sorry. I feel like the distinction between humanities and sciences is really silly. I'm reading the description of the book that Jordan Peterson recommended at the start of his video on postmodernism. Here we go. This is when we get to the good stuff. Why has a significant portion of the political left, but the same left that traditionally promoted reason, science, equality for all, and optimism, now switched to themes of anti-reason, anti-science, double standards, and now cynicism? I feel like, they're not switching to the theme, right? Oh my god, this is why I fucking hate Hegelians. They believe that, you're like swapping between like two pendulums at any given moment rather than existing exclusively in a certain period of time and explaining a piece of thoughts through rhetoric that may or may not accurately represent all of it, right? And when you're quote-unquote switching between reason and anti-reason, these fucking Hegelian idiots are like, oh, you just abandon reason. Fuck off. Double standards and cynicism? Yeah, I'm so sorry. I think that people are just like more jaded after they saw like 2008. I'm sorry, Hicks. Published 2011, explaining postmodernism. Why are people fine with double standards and cynicism? 2008. I'm so sorry. 9/11. That's why. You wanna understand postmodernism on the left and why the left has switched to it? There you go. That's why. Shut up.
The expanded edition includes 2 additional essays by Hicks, Free Speech and Postmodernism, Why Art Became Ugly.
All right, let's see. Let's continue on with Jordan Peterson.
And it's a much more well-developed and pervasive, pernicious, nihilistic, intellectually attractive doctrine than has yet come to public realization. It absolutely dominates the humanities and increasingly the social sciences in the universities. And
it dominates it.
You see, someone once said,
postmodernism dominates academia. It means we need to go to modernism.
Conscious exponent of a dead philosopher.
Everyone is the... Yeah, okay, yeah. Oh, my lord. Oh, he's so dumb. Okay, when Nietzsche says that everyone is the dead exponent of a dead philosopher, what he means is that we don't... Old philosophies aren't disproven. They're abandoned in favor of more ideal identities or philosophies.
And, fortunately, the postmodern philosophers, most of them are dead, so that's a good thing. But that doesn't mean that their words aren't continually being spoken by people who are following in their wake, let's say. And it's not
these
like
postmodernists live in the same quote that you give for Nietzsche as all of the Enlightenment thinkers.
All the details about what it is that has them in their grip. But if you get 20 of them together, and they're all 5% influenced by the postmodernist ethos, you basically have the spirit of the mob.
5% spirit of the mob. Once you get to 6%, the mob has acquiesced around.
And you understand why things are progressing the way that they're progressing. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about
why are things progressing?
Because it's not optional to understand.
This is 7 years ago he made this video.
It's absolutely crucial to understand this. You can't underestimate the power
it's crucial.
of ideas and also the power of words.
Yeah. Good one. Yep.
The postmodernists completely reject the structure of Western civilization. And
they completely reject it? They reject your structure of Western civilization. Jordan Peterson. I'm so sorry. The world exists outside of you. Sit the fuck down, you stupid bitch. And this is before he got his fucking brain ruined by sulfides.
Jacques Derrida, who's head trickster
Jacques
for the postmodernist movement.
Head trickster?
Western culture, let's call it the patriarchy.
I don't know who Derrida is, though.
Phallogocentric.
Phallogocentric.
Comes from phallus, P-H-A-L-L-O.
Yes, thank you. We understand Latin, thank you.
The insistence that what you see in Western culture is the consequence of a male-dominated, oppressive, self-serving society. And you might say, well, societies do tend to be self-serving, and people...
Societies tend to be self-serving. I hate Adam Smith. Adam Smith is turning in his fucking grave every time God beams the thought of cryptocurrencies into his dead brain. He's turning in his fucking grave. Adam Smith turning in his metaphysical grave. with the thought of cryptocurrency is going to power our future. It's going to power our army, the American army. I'm envisioning a new future for America.
And that's one of the things that needs to be considered continually. There are no shortage of flaws in the manner in which we've structured our society. And compared to any hypothetical utopia, it's an absolutely dismal wreck. But compared
No, okay. It's not about, you know, the flaws of society. It is about having like a vision, but like not necessarily utopian. You got to be a utopian realist,
the history
Chad.
of mankind, we're doing pretty damn well, and we should be happy to be
We're
living
doing
in the
pretty
society
damn
that
well.
we're living in.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So the first thing that you might want to note about
Hold on. How do I relate this to the essay that we just read? And slavery. We're I lost it. Oh well. Wait, is it this one? That wasn't 11 Labs. That is so sad. Anyways, so what? Jordan Peterson doesn't understand that he's a slave, or he seeks to free himself. Yeah, okay. He believes that he has freed himself, and he delights in being such a free person. Got it.
postmodernism is that it doesn't have
He's
a shred of
indulged in the
gratitude.
delusion.
And there's something pathologically wrong with a person who doesn't have any gratitude, especially when they live in what so far is the
Yo,
best
is this
of all.
anti-Semitic? Yo, what? Jordan Peterson, this is like anti-Semitic as fuck. Not having a shred of gratitude because you're like critical and deconstructing everything? Bro, who is more critical and deconstructive than like an old Soviet Jewish woman? I'm so sorry. Jordan Peterson, this is the most anti-Semitic thing you fucking said.
possible
This is
world.
crazy.
And so if you're not grateful, you're driven by resentment, and resentment is about the worst emotion that you can possibly
Okay, got it.
experience apart from
We got it,
arrogance.
Jordan Peterson. You think
Resentment,
Israel
arrogance,
is
and
ungrateful.
deceit. There's an evil triad for you. And if you're bitter about everything that's happening around you, despite the fact that you're bathed in wealth, then there's something absolutely wrong with you. You know, the black community in the United States is the 18th wealthiest community, 18th
black
wealthiest
community?
nation on the planet. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't such a thing as relative poverty, and relative poverty matters. It's an important...
Relative poverty. What about absolute poverty? What are you talking about, bud? Why use this term? What do you gain by using this term? Why do you seek to avoid using absolute poverty instead?
important political economic issue, and it's very, very difficult to deal with.
It's
But
very difficult to
absolute
deal
wealth
with.
matters
I wonder
too,
I wonder
and
how
there's
Jordan Peterson believes we deal with relative poverty. It probably by cutting social welfare nets.
societies have been absolutely remarkable in their ability to generate and distribute wealth, as you can tell by just looking
Generate
around,
and distribute
looking at
wealth. To
a
who?
brief bit of
Doesn't matter.
consideration
Don't
of the
ask.
absolute miracle that even
Stop
building like
deconstructing.
this represents.
Stop being
You
a
have to educate
postmodernist.
yourself about postmodernism. Okay, so here's what the postmodernists believe. They don't believe in the individual. That's the logos part.
What?
Western culture is
What?
fell
What?
logocentric. Logo is logos. That's partly the Christian word, but it's also partly the root word of logic. Okay?
Christian?
They don't believe in logic.
They don't
believe
no,
that
no, no,
logic
no.
is part of the process by which the patriarchal institutions of the West
They believe logic is the process by which they can analyze the patriarchal processes. They aren't devoid of logic. They aren't devoid of logos. There are still ideas behind the language that they're being used. They might not be translating perfectly through the medium of speech because you're fucking brain dead and your skull is as thick as a walnut.
continue to dominate and to justify their dominance. They don't believe in dialogue. The root word of dialogue
Okay,
is
true.
logos again. They don't believe that people
True.
of goodwill can come to consensus through the exchange.
Yeah, I don't believe people can come to consensus through the exchange of ideas. I think that whenever you're debating, you are debating against a simulacra of a person for an audience.
of ideas. They believe that that notion is part of the philosophical substructure and practices of the dominant culture. So the reason they don't let people who they don't agree with
How do I
speak
get
on
into this
campus
place?
is because they don't agree with letting people speak. You see, it's not
No, it's
part
resistance.
of the ethos.
Oh,
Okay,
but
so
see,
what
this is
else do they
that's the
believe?
see. Okay, what he's describing right now is the sort of resistance that Naoki sort of like denounced, right? He wasn't super fond of that sort of resistance. He was like, yeah, resistance is what the fuck? I was found breaking in. Run. Jordan Peterson saved me.
They believe that since you don't have an individual
cop is a
identity,
postmodernist.
your fundamental identity is group foster.
My fundamental
And that
identity
means
isn't a
you're
criminal. I
basically
shouldn't
an
be held
exemplar of your
responsible for
race,
my
hence
actions.
white privilege, or you're an exemplar of your gender or your sex or your ethnicity, or you're an exemplar of however you can be classified so that you are placed in the position of victim against the oppressor, because that's the game.
The victim?
And it's a post-Marxist sleight of hand, right?
Post-Marxist sleight of hand.
The notion was that the world was a battleground between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, and that
What the fuck? I need to be level 3?
failed to have any philosophical or ethical standing.
failed
that argument
to have
after
any ethical standing.
The working class actually saw its standard of living massively elevated as a consequence of Western corporate democracy, Western free enterprise democracy, and also as a consequence of the revelations of everything.
Right.
terrible
Oh,
that happened
he's
to every
what
bloody
he's
country
what he's
ever-
describing right here. When, like, you know, the raising of the American, like, wealth through corporatism is exactly the universalism that Naoki was talking about. Right. This is him shilling the same universalism.
dared to make equity and the Marxist communist dogma part of their fundamental structure, right? And nothing but murderousness and oppression. And so by the 1970s, it was evident that that game was up. The postmodernist Marxists just basically pulled a sleight of hand and said, okay, if it's not the poor against the rich, it's the oppressed against the oppressor. We'll just redivide the subpopulations in ways that make our...
What I think he's, like, glazing over is maybe it matters, like, you know, just different semantics, because I don't think it's, you know, the oppressed versus the oppressor. It's the other versus the other ring, right? It's the discursive, like, distinction between people.
Our bloody philosophy continue in its movement forward, and
True,
that's
it
where
is.
we're at now. And so for the postmodernists, the world is a Hobbesian battleground of identity groups. They do not communicate
Hobbesian
with one another
battlegrounds?
because they can't. All there is
No,
a
they
struggle
can.
for power.
No, postmodernism says that they do communicate with each other in every single interaction that they have with each other. They identify themselves in relationship and seek to find out their place in a heterogeneous world.
And if
You're just
in
lying.
the predator group, which means you're an oppressor,
predator
you better
group?
look out, because you're not
Bro,
exactly
he's no.
welcome,
I feel like he's just
not
doxing his
exactly
mentality.
welcome.
I'm so
Neither are
sorry.
your ideas.
He's
So that's
citing
what
Nietzsche
we're
at the start of his
I would
yapping,
say
and then
it's
he's
time
like,
for
okay,
conservatives to stop apologizing for being
Stop
conservatives.
apologizing and be real.
No, and
"Fuck fake people, yo, real."
you don't apologize to these people. That's
Thankfully,
a big
I'm a
mistake.
bird.
Apology.
You don't apologize.
Apology as an admission of guilt. You don't apologize and you don't back down. You young people
don't back
that are out
down.
there who are university students, you need to take over the student unions.
We're
You
not
need
a
to
cult. You need to take over the student unions. You need to never back down. You never need to think differently. You never need to modify your opinions. You need to... The left is the one who doesn't want to reach out and discourse with people. Yeah, I got it. All right, thank you,
Because they're
Jordan
absolute
Peterson.
snake
Got
pits,
it.
and they have been since the 1990s.
Yeah, get those teachers unions. Thank you, Jordan Peterson. How the fuck do I get into this place?
And
I
with
can't disable this
With
camera.
regards to the universities, I thought at one point that the best thing to do would be to cut their funding by 25% and let them fight amongst themselves for the remnants, because it would force the universities to decide exactly what's important and what isn't. So I would say the humanities and much of the social sciences has turned into a postmodern neo-Marxist playground for radicals. The scholarship is terrible. 80% of humanities papers aren't
Wow.
cited
It's almost
once.
like
Once.
truth that
So
exists
what
outside the
means
nation
is that they
state
write
is, like,
papers to each other,
disruptive.
and they sell them to libraries, and that's
That's
how the publishers
crazy,
make their money. No one reads them,
insane.
but the publishers can print them because the libraries have to buy them, and they're buying them with your tax money. And so all of you who are sitting here are funding a postmodern, radical, neo-Marxist agenda that has its roots in
Postmodern,
university, and
radical-
your tax money is going towards that.
Your
And if
tax
you
money
want
is going
proof
to
of
that.
You just go online and look at the websites.
No, I
especially
hate diversity of
disciplines
opinion.
like
You can only
women's
have my
studies, which is
opinion.
pathological right to the core. But
Yeah,
it's not
change this
just
woke and
women's
gay.
studies. It's all the ethnic studies groups.
Whoa. Ethnic studies too? Bro, what?
It's anthropology. It's sociology. It's
Yeah, we need to
social work.
decentralize, like, ethnology, like, studies. You know what I'm saying? Lockpicker. Can I just take a picture from here? Got it? Nice. Mission complete. Alright. I am doing my leaving.
And most of all, it's education. And OISE, for example, in Ontario, is
OISE?
perhaps, apart from the
Ontario?
Human Rights
Sport?
Commission, the most
Yo,
dangerous
any Canadians in
institution
chat can
Canada.
confirm
It
this?
should-
What?
Women's studies. It's all the ethnic studies groups.
Ethnic studies, women's studies. Got it. Radical,
It's
radical.
anthropology. It's
Anthropology.
sociology, it's social work. And most
Social
of all,
work?
it's education. And
Yeah,
Boise, for
education.
example, in
Yeah, fuck
Ontario,
education.
is
Got it.
perhaps, apart from the Ontario Human Rights Commission, the most dangerous
Apart from the
institution in
Ontario Human Rights Conference is the second most dangerous institution in Canada. Yo, any Canadians, can you affirm that the Human Rights Conference is like the second most dangerous entity in Canada? You know, coercion, right? Okay. Fuck, he looks so mad in this image. It's like genuinely crazy. He looks so ghoulish. I'm not gonna bother pulling up like OBS and like showing you guys, but like his eyes are hollow. Oh my lord.
It should be defunded. It's as simple as that. They don't do the research they purport to do. They're not interested
They don't do postmodern research?
They're interested in the indoctrination of people as young as they can find.
Oh my god. They are interested in the indoctrination of people as young as... Bro, I'm so sorry. That's fucking school. Yeah, school is education. I've asked, friends of mine who have gone into teaching roles as professions. I've asked them, hey, what do you think is the difference between propaganda, indoctrination, and education? And they lead me on red because it's a stupid fucking question.
Young as they can get their hands on, so to speak. Now, we need to figure out, our society needs to figure out how to stop shunting public tax money to radical left-wing activists. If we were doing that for radical right-wing activists, there would be an absolute storm.
Okay, so I guess how is a neoliberal gonna, or like how is a liberal going to like interpret this, right? What is the argument, against the conclusions that a liberal would draw from this, right? Oh, we need to preserve these institutions not because they're disruptive to capitalism, but because if they just work hard in their system, it's working great. Okay, I don't know.
Happened since the 1960s, and it needs to stop. So that's partly what the conservatives, not only conservatives, but also liberals, true liberals in the English sense,
true
are
liberals
up against. I mean, what's happened as
JP is a liberal. He is a liberal. Yeah.
Marxist intellectualization.
I can fix him. Yeah, he is a liberal because he believes in modernism, I guess.
To the right now, so if you're a classic liberal,
the center has moved to the right. He acknowledges it.
And so for all of you who are interested in pursuing the conservative agenda, there's a lot of classic liberals that you could be talking to. And then finally,
like Destiny,
to talking to young people, you finally have something to sell to them. It's not easy to sell conservatism to young people because they want to change things, and that's not what conservatives want to do. They want to maintain things. Well, now you've got some.
What? They want to maintain things? That is so stupid. The fucking use value distinction is so obvious right here with Jordan. What is it? Use value fallacy is what I'm calling it. Fuck Jordan Peterson for calling conservatives as somebody who doesn't want things to change. Donald Trump has made more change and more perceived change than any fucking president ever, right? Because he's a fucking media star. He's done nothing but change. He is not a fucking conservative. Conservatives don't want things to remain the same. Your little conservative project isn't fucking benign defenders of freedom. I'm so sorry.
Sell to young people.
You're delusional.
You can sell them freedom of speech, and you can sell them responsibility. The left.
You can sell them responsibility.
You can sell
the left is selling them rights. I don't like it when people have rights. Got it. Jordan Peterson.
Oh my god, I never knew it was that bad. I never paid enough attention to him.
Young people are absolutely starving for someone to provide them with a sense of responsibility and say, look, here's something worth living for.
Bro, he's so, what was it? What did I say? What was it? Monopolized? Homopolized? Yeah, homopolized and then homoedipolized. This guy's homoedipolized.
Man.
Bro probably wants to destroy the Statue of David because the idea of like hot men makes him uncomfortable because he doesn't understand that he can just not fuck hot things, right? You can just appreciate it, or the entity, the target of beauty without fucking trying to fuck it. Insane, Jordan Peterson. This is literally why these postmodernists are calling you phallocentric. You are literally phallocentric.
So you can
They're
find
not
meaning
wrong.
in life with freedom, but freedom is a chaotic sort of meaning, right?
Freedom is a
Freedom
chaotic
the
sort of
thing that
meaning.
makes people happy.
What does he have
It's
to
the
see?
sort of thing that
This is
makes
what I'm
people
saying.
troublesome.
So many of these debates come down to the idea of freedom, the idea of slavery. You are going to always be a slave. You should reject your slave identity while accepting that you cannot get rid of it. You are completely unsalvageable. There is no way you are going to be saved. You are a disgusting, sinful little cretin, and only by the absolute great grace of God will you be saved. The only entity which actually can determine the absolute, not this fucking sleazebag sitting in front of a podium.
Because
Just kidding, Chad, it's me.
expands your series of choices, and that makes you nervous.
Abandoned
and
drug
uncertain.
farm
But
heist?
responsibility is
Yo,
another
stethoscope I
not
need?
to say that that's a bad thing. It's a good thing, but it requires that you shoulder the responsibility of the freedom. But responsibility per se is what
do I need?
gives your
Safe
life
cracking
meaning,
is what I need.
genuine meaning
Got
in the
it.
face of suffering. And
Meaning in front of
young people
suffering.
are starving for that. I've been teaching young people for 30 years.
You
and
need
mostly what I've been
to love
teaching
your
them about
suffering.
is
Got it.
responsibility.
Got it,
You're
Jordan
heir
Peterson.
to a
You're
great
bottom. Okay,
tradition.
cool.
It's not perfect, obviously.
It's not
but
perfect.
comparatively, there's nothing else like it that's ever been produced, and
It's
it
postmodernism?
represents a tiny minority of the human polities. Most
Postmodernism represents a tiny portion of human polities? Bro, I'm so sorry, but postmodernism represents every single one and I guess none of them.
of which
Fuck you.
are run by
You're stupid.
murderous,
Oh, what?
antisocial, psychopathic.
Antisocial
thugs.
psychopathic
And
thugs
that seriously,
in our
what's the
institutions.
most-
I'm so done. I'm so done. Salty, are you streaming yet? I'm so done. I'm so sorry. Chat, I'm shoveling your asses over to Salty Squid streams. Salty, are you streaming yet? Go boot your fucking shit up right now. 15 minutes? Oh my god, I need to entertain for 15 more minutes? Oh, Salty. Oh, my Salty Squid. Alright, I'm pulling the essay up again. We need to resist Jordan Peterson, and thankfully, the sulfites in his brain were enough resistance. Actually, no, fuck you guys. I'm not entertaining you guys for 15 minutes. I've said my piece. We've done our content. We've had our fun. We've had our gifted subs. Thank you, Mokuba. Thank you, everybody, for showing up to stream. I'm ending stream now. It's over. Yeah! So, alright, I'm looking forward to doing more of those sorts of streams. And I think that's honestly going to be after vacation. Chat, that's right. I do have a job. I do make money. This is a luxury. Doing streaming, spreading my ideas, I guess talking to Wick about big oil titties is a luxury. I'm going on vacation. I'm not telling you guys where. Fuck you. Fuck you, you postmodern... Fuck you, you postmodern Marxist scumbag thugs who want to find out where I'm going on vacation to.